Chapter 518 Iwaga Cure. Tsukikage Office. An old man with a height of 130 centimeters with a red nose sat in the Tsukikage seat. Opposite him was an Umbu from Iwaga Cure. Has the new human pillar force been selected? Anoki stared at the Umbu. The Umbu replied, 5 orphans have been selected. Anoki nodded. Inform the sealing team to transfer the Nibi to the new human pillar force as soon as possible. Okay, you can go. Yes. The Umbu disappeared. Anoki leaned on the table with a gloomy face. I hope this can be solved before Reikage and Hachibi arrive. Iwagakure, secret underground stone room. 2 Yujihan's limbs were locked on the stone bed, and their bodies were spread out. The mist's headband was taken off and thrown on the ground. Their beige hair was messy, and their clothes were torn in many places. It can be seen that they went through a hard battle before they were caught. Clang! The iron door was pushed open, and the 2 Yujihan looked at the door. It was Iwagakure's ninjas. An Umbu ninja with a mask, and 2 ninjas with Iwagakure forehead protectors. The 2 with Iwagakure's headband were a man and a woman. The woman was holding a small baby in her arms. The Umbu said that Tsukikage ordered us to complete the task as soon as possible. After the Umbu finished speaking, he locked the iron door from the outside. ZZ. Several arcs flashed a few times on the iron door. I'll be outside the door. Let us know if you need anything. The Umbu printed with one hand, and a layer of curses appeared on the inside of the cell. After doing this, the Umbu stood still and looked at the situation inside through the gaps in the fence. The man came to the side of the stone bed and printed with his hand. He summoned a stone platform. The woman handed the baby in her hand to the man and walked towards the 2 Yujihan. The man put the baby on the stone platform. You want to seal the Nibi on such a small child? The 2 Yujihan stared at the woman who walked towards her. The female ninja raised her hand, and with a stroke of the scalpel in her hand, the tops of the 2 Yujihan were cut open from the middle. The female ninja looked at the upper bodies of the 2 Yugiyuki and said, I heard that you have a good relationship with second last. If it's sealed on an adult, that big cat might cause trouble for the Jinchuriki. The 2 Yumu people sneered, childish, do you think you can guess the thoughts of a tailed beast? Whether it's an infant or an adult, to them, they're nothing more than enemies to imprison them. The female ninja helped the 2 Yomu people tidy up their hair. Your figure is so good, your face is not bad, and you have strength. To be honest, this sister is a little jealous of you. The female ninja's hand pressed on the abdomen of the 2 Yujijin. The runes on the 2 wooden golems were revealed. Any last words? When I undo this technique, your vitality will be sucked out along with the ninja beast. Blood flowed out of the woman's finger, and she pressed it on the rune in the middle of the curse seal, and the curse seal lit up. The 2 Yujijin only felt a sharp pain, and they struggled violently. The chains on their limbs clattered as they struggled. Reikage-sama will come back. You're trying to provoke a war between the 2 countries. The 2 Teak people shouted at the top of their lungs. The female ninja laughed and sneered, I've heard about Reikage's temper. He should come, but when he comes, you'll be dead. As for the war, Iwagakure is ready to fight at any time. It seems that you don't have any last words, then I'll start. The female ninja's bloody finger began to slide on other runes, and the runes on the 2 Yujijin's body twisted. At this moment, a male voice suddenly came from the side of the female ninja. Your technique to remove the curse seal is a bit interesting, can you teach me? The female ninja turned her head in shock and saw a scarlet eye staring at her. The eye was so red that it made her heart palpitate. There were 3 scythe-shaped runes on it. What kind of dojutsu is this? At the moment when the female ninja was in doubt, the scene in front of her changed. The cell was gone, and there was only endless darkness. She stood in place and wanted to turn her head, but she lost control of her body. Her hands, feet, and head were connected by a silk thread, and her whole body was tied by the silk thread. Teach me how to break the seal, and you won't die. Inside the stone room, the female ninja's pupils reflected the 3 Tomo Sharingan. Beside her was Naruto with a metal mask, and the male ninja who had been squatting. The two Yujijin were stunned. As for the Umbu outside the door, his pupils under the mask also reflected the Sharingan. Hello, sorry, the person who saved you is not the great hero in your mind, Reikage-sama. The two Yujijin recovered and asked in surprise, "Who are you?" Naruto's eyes were a bit empty. The two Yujijin's chest was really magnificent. He tried not to look, but he couldn't avoid the feeling. The two Yujijin finally realized their situation. But surprisingly, they didn't act like a little girl. Instead, they asked in amusement, "Do I look good?" Naruto took a deep breath, closed his eyes, raised his hand, took off the female ninja's clothes, and covered the two Yujijin. Ahem, that. I'll tell you who I am later. Before I save you, you have two choices. First, let me save you, on the condition that the two Yujijin of Kumogakure become a thing of the past, and you have to follow me in the future. Second, don't let me save you, no conditions, I'll go now. Naruto looked at the two Yujijin. The two Yujijin frowned after hearing the two choices. They looked at Naruto's left eye. Sharingan? Are you from Woodleaf? Naruto looked at the time. I can answer this question, I don't belong to Woodleaf, but I also want to remind you that you only have 5 minutes to think about it. In addition, I also want to tell you that Reikage and the Hachibi human pillar force are still on the boat returning from the land of water to the land of lightning. Even if he knows about you, he can't rush over. Simply put, without me, you will die today. Naruto looked at the two Yujijin, and the two Yujijin looked at him. Tell me, who are you? Naruto raised his hand to take the clothes that covered the two Yujijin, and then put it on the female ninja of Iwagakure. Seeing their clothes being taken away, the two Yumu people asked in shock, "What are you doing?" Naruto replied, "There are 2 waves of patrolling Umbu ninja coming this way. You don't have time. I'm going to restore the scene and leave." After putting on the female ninja's clothes, Naruto raised his hand. 5 seconds, this is your last time to think. De. The sound of footsteps came from outside the corridor. It was getting closer and closer. The two Yujijin could hear that it was indeed 2 people. Naruto counted with his fingers. 3. The two Yujijin clenched their fists. 2. 1. I'll go with you. As soon as the two Yujijin shouted, the people outside the corridor walked faster and asked the guard, "What's the situation inside?" The moment the 2 of them approached, the guard pulled out his sword and slit the throats of the 2 Umbu ninjas who were approaching. Chapter 519. Congratulations, you made the right choice. Naruto took off the female Iwagakure's clothes and covered the 2 Yugihin with them. It was a red cloak, very big, so it covered them tightly. This chain is a bit strange. The chain was not controlled by Naruto's metal. As soon as it touched chakra, it took the initiative to devour Naruto. The 2 Uchihan replied, "To unlock the chain, you need to find the ninja who cast the jutsu." Naruto shook his head. No need. Kusunagi's sword appeared in his hand. Swing. Ding. The chain was directly broken. After 3 more slashes, the other 3 chains were also cut off. The 2 Uchihan looked at the sword in Naruto's hand and sighed, "What a sharp sword." Naruto proudly said, "That's right, this is Kusunagi's sword." Hearing Kusunagi's sword, the 2 Uchihan's eyes narrowed. "Are you Orochimaru's people?" Naruto snorted, "You know a lot, but I'm not Orochimaru's man." The 2 Uchihan knew this mainly because Killer Bee has been thinking about this sword. While talking, the 2 Uchihan turned around and put the red cloak on their bodies. The next moment, they rushed out. Naruto originally wanted the Umbu ninja at the door to stop them, but he didn't expect the 2 Uchihan to suddenly ignite a dual-colored flame, and the ninja was directly burned to ashes. "Hey! You promised me!" Naruto shouted. The 2 Uchihan replied, "You believe a woman's words?" After saying that, they disappeared. Naruto's mouth twitched, and suddenly his mood was very complicated. Should he chase them or not? Or should he just do a good thing? Spiritual Network. Senju Tobarama, you. Naruto was about to let Senju Tobirama summon him away, but he found that the two Uchihan ran back. Why did you run back? The two Yuginin looked helpless and pitiful. I can't beat the people outside. Ha, Naruto asked, do you think I will help a person who goes back on his word? At this moment, the temperature in the corridor suddenly rose. The four-tailed human pillar force, Old Purple. Kitty, can you tell me how you managed to escape? The two Yukinin widened their eyes as they watched Naruto's body merge into the wall and leave. Don't be so stingy. Naruto did not respond. When Old Purple entered the house, Naruto had already left. In the room, there was only one man and one woman who were unconscious. Second last human pillar force, and the two Ujiren. Old Purple glanced at the chains on the stone bed. Someone came to save you? Where is he? The four-tailed human pillar force, Old Purple. His fur was dark red, and he wore a mountain-shaped forehead protector on his head. On the other side of the spiritual network, Tobirama asked, that. What did you call me for? Naruto, it's all right, wait for my notice. In the cell, the two Yukinin and Old Purple had already started fighting. Old Purple was afraid because he was sure that there was someone here. Another thing is that Iwagakure is on top of this underground chamber. On the contrary, the two Yukinin didn't have to worry about this. They even directly turned into Bijou and fought back fiercely. Bijudama. The stone room was blasted open, and the two Yukinin took the opportunity to slip out. But then the gravity changed, and the two Yuginin were pressed to the ground, and their movements were slow. Iwagakure's Umbu, Jonin, and Tsuchikage arrived. There was also a strong man with a red armor and a hat. He was more than 2 meters tall. That man should be the Gobi human pillar force. The three strongest of Iwagakure were gathered. Old Purple reported the situation to the short old man. Someone came to rescue her, and that person should still be in the village. Tsuchikage's expression was solemn. First, lock the Nibi human pillar force. The people of the seal bar came and wrapped the two Yukinin with chains. The two Yukinin chakra began to fade and exit the Bijou mode. Come out! The old Tsuchikage shouted. The Yonbi human pillar force and the Gobi human pillar force were on the side. At the same time, many ninjas came around. There were 3 layers inside and 3 outside. Tsuchikage squinted, and the small eyes on the big eye bag looked around. The surroundings were quiet. Some perceptive ninjas began to cast jutsu. Naruto communicated with the two Yukinin through the spiritual link. Do you think I should give you another chance? Second last Yujito ni got a great shock. Can that person still take her away in the current situation? Nibi connected through the spiritual link. Change your condition. I'm a ninja of Kumogakure. I can't betray my village. Naruto replied. I didn't ask you to kill the people of Kumogakure. How can you betray the village? You can understand that I ran away from home for a while. The two Yukinin asked. Then what do you want me to do? Naruto replied. How about dealing with other villages? Except for Kumogakure. The two Yukinin hesitated. Naruto continued. Without me you will die. The Nibi in your body will be taken away by the other party to create the human pillar force of Iwagakure. By then, Iwagakure will have 3 human pillar force. With the relationship between Iwagakure and Kumogakure, who do you think will suffer in the end? The two Yukinin wavered. Naruto continued. Reikage and Hachibi human pillar force won't be able to save you in time. Even if they come, facing 2 human pillar force and a Tsuchikage, how much hope do you think they have to take you away? By then, Iwagakure won't be able to take away the Bijou in your body and kill you. The two Yukinin gritted their teeth. Okay. If you have the ability to save me from here, then I'll agree to your conditions. Negotiating with women is really tiring. Naruto quietly appeared on the Tsuchikage building. Tobirama, put on your mask, I'm going to summon you. Naruto selected Senju Tobirama in the summoning system panel. The chakra link used for the summoning was naturally the chakra synthesized by the snowy mountain. For a moment, a circle of light appeared on the Tsachikage building. The movement of chakra made the Tsachikage look over. Over there, the Tsachikage ordered, and the Umbu who was closest to him rushed over. But the faster they were, the faster they died. Extremely small metal wires swept through their bodies, and they were cut in half. Only those who were most sensitive to danger and used chakra to protect themselves in time, or those who had other defensive means survived. However, these people were greeted by Naruto's flying sword. The flying sword was branded with a slow barrier. The puppet barrier made people slow down. One end of the flying sword was connected to the puppet line, and the puppet line supplied chakra to cast long-range jutsu. Wind release. Wind blade. For a moment, where the flying sword passed, half of the heads fell to the ground. The Iwagakure ninjas began to retreat in horror. At this time, Nidame Naruto was summoned. Nidame Naruto was wearing a mask. Woodleaf's forehead protector was thrown away the moment he pledged allegiance to Naruto, so no one recognized it at first glance. Nidame Naruto glanced at the corpses and rolling heads around and sighed, "It's really a big scene, what do you want me to do?" Naruto replied, "Use your ability to take away Nibi human pillar force on the ground." Third Tsachikage Inoki looked at the corpses on the ground with red eyes and said fiercely, "None of you can leave today." Chapter 520. No one can leave? As soon as Tsachikage finished speaking, Tobarama disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already beside the two Yujito. There was no warning. So when did he throw the Flying Thunder God Jutsu? In fact, Tobarama didn't throw it. In order to hide his identity, Tobarama certainly wouldn't make such an obvious move. Therefore, he gave Naruto the kunai with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Then Naruto connected the special kunai with puppet strings, drilled into the ground, and then emerged beside the two Yujito. Tobarama's disappearance scared the old man, and then his sudden appearance scared the old man again. Then he disappeared again. He was gone. The other kunai with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu was sent far away by Naruto, almost outside the village. Watching Tobarama disappear, Naruto was a little envious. If he knew the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, he could use it with his flying sword. It's invincible. But the problem is that he lacks the conditions to learn it. Otherwise, he would have learned the Flying Thunder God Jutsu long ago. He doesn't know when the Ein attribute 9 tails will be resurrected. Wait. He really doesn't have the conditions to learn now? He also knows space ninjutsu. Isn't Kamui Sharingan the ability to control space? Maybe when he transplanted Kamui Sharingan, the Ein attribute chakra's nature change was swallowed up. Thinking of this, Naruto's heart was hot. Multitasking, he used his consciousness to check the giant egg outside the sealed space of the 9 tails. Naruto wanted to find evidence from the golden lines on the giant egg. However, the golden lines on the aperture were already intermittently connected, and it was impossible to count how many there were. If he wanted to prove it, he could only wait until he went back and tried. Tobarama disappeared, and several perceptive ninjas of Iwagakure chased after him. The direction was consistent with the place where Tobarama disappeared. It can be seen that the ninjas of Iwagakure are still skilled. Among them, the Yonbi human pillar force Rashi also chased after him under the signal of Tsachikage. The spiritual network. Naruto said to Tobarama, "Just find an opportunity to teleport back to the research institute. Be careful of second last human pillar force escaping halfway. Yes, we'll teleport you to Gurney and the others first, then we'll have Hinata bring you back to the research facility." Segmented teleportation is to prevent leaving traces in space. This kind of trace can't be detected by ordinary people, but people who are proficient in sealing techniques can still detect it, and with the cooperation of ninjas who can use space ninjutsu, they can track it. As for teleporting to where Gu-en-I and the others were, there was a second layer to it. With Gu-en-I and the others there, the two Yujito natives would not be able to escape even if they wanted to. Naruto stood there, and the Tsachikage and the Gobi human pillar force walked towards Naruto step by step. During this time, Naruto was not idle. He was erasing the traces of Senju Tobarama. Are you a ninja from Kumogakure? Inoki stared at Naruto, and at the same time, looked at the crowd that was being evacuated from the corner of his eye. If Kumogakure had such a powerful ninja like me, do you think you can kidnap second last human pillar force? Naruto sneered casually. He glanced at the Gobi human pillar force who was wearing a red hat. Why don't you go forward? Am I already in your attack range? While talking, the Tsuchikage building suddenly exploded, and hot steam rose into the sky. But when the steam dissipated, Naruto also disappeared. What about the ceiling class? Is the village's defensive barrier just for decoration? The Tsuchikage roared. The ceiling class replied with trepidation, the village's defensive barrier can't sense this person's information. While the two were talking, a pair of hands suddenly stretched out from under the Gobi human pillar force's feet. Grabbing the Gobi human pillar force, he pulled down. The Gobi human pillar force's body spewed out hot steam at the same time. At the same time, the Iwagakure ninja who was good at earth release began to cast jutsu. But it was only a clone. Inoki's body left the ground, and his whole body floated out of thin air. Then he stared down at the village in front of him. He wanted to find the enemy. But at this time, the fog suddenly became bigger. Everyone's field of vision was obscured. "Han, what are you doing?" The five-tailed Jinchuriki Han was startled and replied in a muffled voice, "I didn't do it." At this moment, Naruto suddenly appeared in front of Han. Manjikyu Sharingan. Han's body that was about to resist suddenly stopped. Genjutsu attack mental link established successfully. The next moment, Naruto saw the Gobi. It was a creature with a white body, a head like a dolphin, and a body like a horse. Naruto saw the Gobi, and the Gobi also saw Naruto. The two looked at each other. "You have a familiar aura." "You are." The Gobi wanted to say that Naruto was the human pillar force. But soon he found that he felt several auras. There was a Chibi, Nibi, Hachibi, and 9 tails. How is this possible? The Gobi was shocked. "I need your chakra." Naruto made a condition to the Gobi. The Sharingan mark in the Gobi's eyes was intermittent. Chakra was sent out from the seal. Devour. Crack. 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 This was the sound coming from the giant egg. 3 cracks appeared in a row, all over the giant egg. At the same time, one more golden line appeared on the giant egg's halo. This pattern was integrated with the other patterns, making the halo look like it was golden. "Thank you, see you next time." Naruto merged into the fog and disappeared. When the fog dissipated, only the Gobi human pillar force was still standing in place. The illusion was lifted, and the Gobi human pillar force shuddered. "What's going on?" This was Inoki's question. "I was in an illusion. That person has the Sharingan." Spiritual network. "Boss, we have returned to the Research Institute." Naruto, "Very good, I will be there soon." After explaining, Naruto appeared behind Old Purple. Old Purple's spiritual sense was stronger than Han's. Scorching magma suddenly erupted under Naruto's feet. If not for the fact that Naruto had merged with the second last and had a certain resistance to flames, he would have been finished. "I was careless. The previous few times had been too smooth." Naruto narrowly avoided the magma spray. But when Naruto landed, magma gushed out from the soles of his feet again. Under the perception enchantment, Old Purple spread chakra all around. "You can't run." Old Purple stared at Naruto. Naruto smiled and said, "Your village chief said so just now." Boom! Like a volcanic eruption, magma suddenly erupted under Naruto's feet that was dozens of times larger than before. Naruto used fire release to protect his body, and while dodging, he took out his flying sword. Whoosh! Whoosh! 5 flying swords surrounded Old Purple. "Stop!" Old Purple's body stopped. Naruto kicked Old Purple out of the magma area. Mangekyo Sharingan. At the next moment, Naruto saw the Yonbi. A monkey with red hair. "I need your chakra." Chapter 521. Gulp, gulp, gulp. After Naruto swallowed the Yonbi's chakra, 3 more cracks appeared on the egg. Moreover, the previous 3 cracks had extended quite a bit. Is it hatching? It's finally hatching. At this moment, Naruto heard a whisper in his ear, I didn't expect you to have a Sharingan, and a Mangekyo Sharingan. There was no enemy in the perception barrier. Naruto withdrew his consciousness from the spiritual world and looked for the source of the voice. Orochimaru. Orochimaru continued, I'm just curious, where did you get this eye? Is it from Danzo's arm? Hearing this sentence, Naruto knew that Orochimaru recognized him. I didn't expect to meet you here. While speaking, the soil under Orochimaru's feet turned red, and then he sprayed. But Orochimaru dodged. I didn't expect you to be able to control the human pillar force so well. Did you transplant Shodai cells into your body? Orochimaru stood on the tree and continued to look down at Naruto. At this moment, footsteps came from a distance. The fog rose, and the footsteps stopped. In the perception barrier, there was only a pile of corpses on the ground. It was Orochimaru. To be precise, Orochimaru was reincarnated from the filthy earth. Naruto didn't see the person's appearance, but he could guess. It should be the second Mizukage, Genjutsu Hozuki, obtained from the mist. Let's talk in another place. I don't think you will refuse my invitation. Naruto sneered. Your invitation? Where did your confidence come from? Orochimaru smiled wickedly, and his long tongue licked his own tongue. I'm still in a cooperative relationship with the Tsuchikage. You don't want us to work together to deal with you, do you? If Orochimaru and the Tsuchikage worked together, Naruto wasn't confident. The reason why the Tsuchikage didn't make a move was mainly because Naruto was in Iwagakure, and now he was outside the village. There was no need to worry. Orochimaru disappeared. Naruto followed closely behind. The 4-tailed human pillar force stood in place, and the illusion was dispelled after a while. Seeing that Naruto didn't bring the Yonbi human pillar force with him, Orochimaru was a little surprised. You don't want such a good helper? Naruto did not reply. Orochimaru continued talking to himself. What a pity. If it weren't for the fact that we're still working together, I'd really like to take one back for research. Naruto said sarcastically, cooperating with you, the Tsuchikage must be senile. Not to mention anything else, Orochimaru just killed nearly 15 Iwagakure ninjas. Orochimaru laughed and said, Don't say that, the benefits are suitable, why can't we cooperate? Naruto ignored Orochimaru and carefully observed the movements behind him. Strangely, Iwagakure's people didn't catch up. Orochimaru saw Naruto's doubts and asked, Are you surprised? The Land of Lightning made the same mistake before, and as a result, they lost the Nibi human pillar force. The Tsuchikage should be worried about following in Kumogakure's footsteps. Is that so? The Tsuchikage is worried about being lured away, and then creating a diversion? After crossing a mountain and a rocky canyon, Orochimaru finally stopped. As he was about to speak, his body stopped, and his whole body slowed down. Sword light swept. Boom! Orochimaru disappeared, leaving only a severed white snake in place. Orochimaru's snake clone. There was a burst of applause around the canyon. That's a really admirable decisiveness. If that was really me, I would be seriously injured even if I didn't die. Deep in the canyon, there was a fog. It wasn't an ordinary fog. The perception barrier was affected by the fog, and the feedback information was also blurred. It was a bit interesting, but for Naruto, the fog wasn't a big deal. Ice release. Temperature drop. Ring. Ring. The water vapor condensed into ice crystals, and the vision was restored. A person stood in front of Naruto. It wasn't the second Mizukage, but the first Naruto, Hashirama Senju. Boy, we meet again. Hashirama grinned. What's the situation? Hashirama's consciousness is also there? Then how did Orochimaru control this great god? Is it possible that... Orochimaru also upgraded Edo Tensei? It's nice to see you again. However, you're Naruto, isn't it a bit degrading to be with Orochimaru? How about we work together to deal with Orochimaru? Hashirama also looked sincere. Okay, but you have to promise me one thing. Let me beat you up first, and then we can talk about cooperation. Hashirama moved as he said that. With a burst of power, he stepped on the gravel pit. Monster force. Naruto didn't dodge, and the monster force bombarded him. The explosion sounded, and the two were bounced back at the same time. They were evenly matched. Boy, not bad. The first Hokage was squatting in a horse stance. No, it's Sage mode. A red circle appeared on the first Naruto's forehead. Boy. Again. The first Naruto exerted force, and the ground caved in like a crater. This attack can't be blocked. Wind release, storm injury, dodge. However, he couldn't dodge. The first Naruto's fist imprinted on his body, and then Naruto was blasted away like a cannonball. If I knew this would happen, I would have learned swift release before showing off. This was Naruto's thought when he was blasted away. Boom. There was another explosion. The first Naruto appeared behind Naruto. Whip kick. Unable to dodge, Naruto's body instantly metallized. Clang. Like a round wooden bell, Naruto's body rang. This can't continue. Naruto's body was still flying in the sky. Hand seals. Multiple shadow clone technique. Boom. 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 Naruto didn't split into many, a total of 50 clones. The 50 clones spread out in all directions. The first Naruto arrived behind Naruto and kicked again. Boom. The clones exploded, not the main body. Not bad, boy, you've improved a bit. The first Naruto's hand seals, and several huge plants suddenly drilled out of the barren mountain. Wood release. Flower tree world descent. Naruto's clones were directly wiped out. Fuck. There's no need to go so far. How is this beating me up? This is simply killing me. Naruto used gravity to control and ejected. Looking down from the sky, the trees growing out of the ground were almost as big as a small oasis. Naruto couldn't help but think. If the first Naruto was so fierce, how did Uchiha Itachi escape? It's a miracle that he was still alive. At this time, Naruto saw another person. That person was controlling a huge black spear in his hand and shot it at him. The third Kazekage. Magnet release. Iron Sand Villages attack. Naruto raised his hand. Magnet release. The spear approached Naruto, and Naruto was squeezed out. Like repels. The spear turned around. Naruto took out a scroll. Unseal. Silver liquid metal wrapped Naruto. Liquid mercury. The spear stabbed into the liquid metal ball as if it was sinking into a swamp. At the same time, the human chakra was poured into the spear. The spear made of iron sand fused into a real spear in Naruto's hand. Your magnet release is useless in front of my metal control. Naruto shouted proudly. Hand seals. Steel release liquid clone. Chapter 522. Naruto's liquid metal avatar fell from the sky. Then it was violently demolished by Hashirama. Under the Senjutsu mode, it was a powerful punch. The flying sword was hidden in the liquid itself, which slowed down the activation of the enchantment, but it was ineffective. Because it's Senjutsu mode? Naruto didn't know, his original plan failed, he could only open the distance and think of a way. What about Sharingan's Genjutsu? It seems that this thing doesn't work well without trying. If it works well, Madara wouldn't have been defeated like that. But Naruto still tried it. Manjikyu Sharingan, Genjutsu. Naruto's body paused for a moment, and then the iron sand condensed into an iron awl and smashed towards Naruto. Naruto was multitasking. Naruto got rid of the Genjutsu and launched a fierce attack on Naruto. Under the Senjutsu mode, it was a powerful punch. Boom! Naruto was hit. At this time, Orochimaru's voice came. Don't waste time, use your strongest ninjutsu. With this order, Naruto's face had a trace of helplessness. Hand seal, senjutsu. There are thousands of hands. The giant Buddha rose, and behind the giant Buddha, there are Buddha hands. The giant Buddha is as big as a mountain. The Buddha hands are as many as Linyu. Is this trick used to deal with Uchiha Itachi? Naruto had a question in his heart. Secondly, this trick is invincible. Is this senjutsu? Sure enough, it's different from ninjutsu. Naruto can also make this kind of show, but compared with first Naruto, his tricks are just a facade. Naruto, I'll give you a chance. How about coming to my side? Orochimaru's feminine voice came into Naruto's ears. Naruto looked at Orochimaru. If he can kill Orochimaru, then the problem seems to be solved. But the problem is that the Orochimaru in front of him is not necessarily the real Orochimaru. If it was a fake, there was no point in killing it. What a cunning fellow. Sure. Naruto's answer silenced everyone. Even the mountain-like Buddha seemed to be frozen. Then Naruto asked, "But if I agree, do you dare to accept me?" Orochimaru hesitated. Using this time, Naruto looked at first Naruto. The 3 Tomo Sharingan transformed into Mangekyo Sharingan. Seeing this, Orochimaru sneered, "It's useless, even if you have Manjikyu Sharingan, it's not enough to deal with first Daimyo Naruto-sama." Orochimaru didn't move, and the others didn't move either, as if they were watching Naruto make a fool of himself. However, in the next moment, space distorted. A vortex caged first-generation Naruto. In the blink of an eye, first-generation Naruto was gone. After losing first-generation Naruto, cracks appeared on the giant Buddha's body. Then it collapsed. The flower tree world also began to collapse, disintegrating into chakra and scattering between heaven and earth. Orochimaru was shocked. "What did you do?" At the same time, Obito was also shocked. He contacted Naruto through the spiritual network and said, "What kind of monster did you send me?" "Monster?" Naruto replied, "Look carefully, don't you think it's familiar?" Obito went to take a closer look at first-generation Naruto. Orochimaru made a hand seal and wanted to summon first-generation Naruto again, but Naruto's speed was extremely fast. A sword slashed at Orochimaru. Strength is only trustworthy when it's in your own body. A sword slashed. Orochimaru's body was split in half. Orochimaru still had a smile on his face. "I've learned a lot, looking forward to the next meeting." Boom! The clone disappeared, and a white snake that was cut in half fell to the ground. The flying sword turned and shot at the 3rd Kazekage and the 2nd Mizukage. But the flying sword was one step ahead, and the 2 were summoned away. Whoosh! The flying sword flew horizontally to Naruto's side. It was put away by Naruto. Sage mode can ignore the slow-down barrier. Well, it seems that if I want to deal with Sage mode, I have to learn Senjutsu. A message came from Obito. "The person you sent was summoned away." Naruto rolled his eyes. "Is your space so trashy? It can't even lock a person?" Obito replied, "If you give me the other eye, maybe it can be locked." Naruto replied irresponsibly, "Don't be so stingy, let me play for a while. By the way, this time I have to thank you for this eye, otherwise, even if I didn't explain it today, I would have lost half of my old life." Obito was surprised. "Your strength is not weak, who did you meet?" Naruto asked, "You didn't recognize the person I sent?" Obito replied, "I was just about to take a closer look when the person was summoned away." Naruto took a deep breath. "I met Orochimaru, with his 3 Kage-level subordinates, and the person I sent to you is Naruto Hashirama." Obito was surprised. "Is Orochimaru really that strong?" Orochimaru? Naruto wanted to say that he didn't even see Orochimaru's body. Naruto replied absent-mindedly, "I can only say that technology is power. Compared to Orochimaru, I am actually more curious about how Uchiha Itachi escaped. And Kisame Gai didn't sacrifice himself." Obito replied, I know a little about this. The two were chased to the beach, and Itachi broke through the encirclement with Amaterasu, then Kisame jumped into the sea with Itachi, and then Kisame's shock ninja beast dragged the two from the land of water back to the land of fire. Huh. It also sounded like a fantasy. Well, they are all awesome. Naruto planned to contact Guru through the spiritual network and let Guru summon him over. But looking down at his current appearance, he thought about it and gave up. Instead, he contacted Wolf Girl, summon me over. Wolf Girl was still looking for the Stone of Grail at the border between the land of fire and the land of wind. Boss, you are. In the aperture, when Wolf Girl saw Naruto in tattered clothes, her eyes widened in shock. It was the first time she saw Naruto in such a miserable state. What happened to him? Is there anything in the world that can beat her master like this? Naruto simply replied, Don't worry, I just moved my body. Then he contacted Tobirama. Tobirama, go to my room and summon me. Tobirama nodded. When Tobirama saw Naruto, his expression became serious. Is the Tsuchikage so strong? Naruto went straight into the bathroom. It's not the Tsuchikage, it's your brother. Tobirama was stunned. You met my brother? Naruto said weakly, Yes, your brother is so powerful now, he even used the Senjutsu True Thousand Hands. Tobirama shuddered. If my brother is so powerful, then if I see him, can I run away? For a moment, Tobirama only felt a chill rising from the soles of his feet along his back to the top of his head. Where is the second last human pillar force? Tobirama came back to his senses and quickly replied, In the public hall. The sound of water splashing was heard. Naruto began to take a bath. In fact, ninjutsu can solve the problem without taking a bath. It's just that Naruto needs hot water to ease his frightened body and mind. Oh, then I will see her later. By the way, after I deal with things, let's discuss the Flying Thunder God technique and see if I can learn it. Tobirama, yes. Chapter 523. Nine Tails Sealed the Space. Naruto looked at the giant egg. Because of the giant egg, he had the ability to fuse all kinds of chakra nature changes. But it seemed that it was only the fusion of chakra nature changes. There didn't seem to be any other enhancement. That's not right. His soul power increased. Not only did he have a photographic memory, but he could also form memories of scenes he wanted to remember. In addition, there was also his doppelganger that was a bit strange. Chakra of the tailed beasts has also fused with 6 of them. Could it be that only when all 9 of them fuse with this egg can it hatch? Then isn't this thing a bit too abnormal? Nine Tails was also looking at the giant egg, but unlike Naruto, he was staring at the cracks on it. Why are there cracks on the smooth eggshell? This was very uncomfortable for a fox who suddenly suffered from obsessive-compulsive disorder for some reason. But he didn't dare to touch the egg. The last time he accidentally touched it, the chakra he had painstakingly accumulated was swallowed again. Huh? Why did he say again? Did this happen in the past? Nine Tails began to recall. Naruto glanced at Nine Tails. Seeing that Nine Tails was also staring at the giant egg, he couldn't help but emphasize, Don't make trouble for me this time. If it weren't for you last time, this egg might have hatched. Nine Tails turned his head. You're blaming me. So many of my chakra were swallowed by this guy. Who am I going to judge? Naruto said seriously, When the egg hatches, you can find the master inside to judge. Master? Yes, in Naruto's view, the guy in his body was a master. Naruto's mind withdrew from Nine Tails' sealed space and stood up from the bathtub. Then he put on the clothes prepared by his doppelganger. Inside the room, Tobirama was sitting on the sofa, thinking about something. He sat here waiting for Naruto to finish everything, and then he would exchange the Flying Thunder God technique. It was said to be an exchange, but in fact, he was teaching Naruto the Flying Thunder God technique. Naruto got dressed and walked over. Tobirama finally asked the question in his heart, Since Akatsuki is preparing to collect tailed beasts, in order to weaken their strength, should we also attack tailed beasts? Naruto looked in the mirror and replied, "No, at least not at this stage." In the living room of the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, 2 wooden puppets sat on the sofa. She sniffed and smelled a fragrance. It wasn't food, it was the scent of a woman. Then, he turned around to look at the sofa again and found a strand of hair on the sofa. Very long hair. Black. A woman's hair? He found one, and then saw many more. They were of different lengths and colors. It was obvious that they were from different people. "What are you doing?" Naruto couldn't help but ask as he watched the 2 wooden puppets lying on the sofa with him on their backs. The 2 Yujito natives were startled and quickly turned around. He saw the burly, red-haired, and extraordinarily handsome Naruto. Naruto's right eye was a red vertical pupil, and his left eye was a Sharingan. It seemed to add a trace of devilish charm to his upright and beautiful face. "I didn't do anything, I'm just looking at your sofa." Naruto walked over and looked at the sofa. This sofa was one of the few things here that wasn't made of metal. European style, solid wood frame, red soft sofa cushions, and back. This sofa is produced and sold in the snow country. If you like, you can go shopping. The 2 Yujito natives were stunned. Snow country? Naruto didn't intend to hide it. "Well, snow country, I don't know if you have been here before, but the current snow country is definitely not the snow country you saw before." The 2 teak people nodded. "I have seen Princess Wind and Cloud. It is said that the movie was shot in the snow country." The 2 Yujito natives watched movies? Also, watching movies doesn't distinguish between people. There's nothing to make a fuss about. "Oh, the current snow country is a bit different from the movie." The 2 of them chatted casually like 2 old friends. To Naruto's surprise, the second last Yujito natives was much more feminine this time. She didn't have a cold face like she used to. "What would you like to drink? Coffee? Or tea?" Naruto suddenly realized that there wasn't even a glass of water on the coffee table. He didn't know from whom did Tobirama learn how to treat guests. He really couldn't live without a woman at home. Thinking of this, Naruto thought of Hinata again. Logically speaking, that girl should be here? Well, she might have gone to play with the president and the others out of boredom. Rowing a boat, paddling on the winding Venice Lake, watching the snowbirds fly freely under the blue sky. When the breeze blew, his hair, which had been warmed by the sun, gently patted his cheeks. Thinking about it, Naruto realized that he wanted to go. "It's quite stuffy in the house. Why don't I take you out for a walk? Familiarize yourself with the environment here." Going out, that would be great, because he could find a chance to escape. The 2 Yujito natives gladly accepted. Naruto casually yelled below, "Are Big Silly and 2 Silly at home?" A gust of wind blew under the platform, and 2 strong tigers flapped their wings and flew up one after another. It was a dazzling golden tiger with dazzling black tiger stripes and a pair of broad wings. Big Silly and 2 Silly's appearance was quite coquettish. Big Silly was the one that Naruto rode to the Earth Nation, and it was taller than 2 Silly. The 2 Yujito natives walked over and asked in surprise, "Are these your ninja beasts?" Naruto touched Big Silly and 2 Silly's tiger heads. "Who said that you can't touch a tiger's head? If you can't touch it, it means that you're not strong enough." "Sort of, you'll know in a few days. We have a lot of these small animals at home." "Our home." Naruto said that he was used to it, but he wasn't used to the 2 Yujito natives. Thump, thump. His little heart was beating a little wildly. 2 Silly, carry that sister." The 4-meter-tall tiger rubbed against Naruto's body before squatting down in front of the 2 Yujito natives. The 2 Yujito natives touched 2 Silly's golden fur and praised, "What a handsome ninja beast." The 2 Yujito natives liked it very much. However, second last was displeased. She couldn't help but let out a trace of chakra. She wanted to scare 2 Silly tigers. However, to her surprise, 2 Silly did not move at all. Second last was stunned. That shouldn't be the case. If second last knew that these guys had been sensing Nine-Tails' aura all day, she would have figured it out. The two Yujito natives sat on two silly. Naruto sat on big silly. The two tigers then flew around the inner wall of the great snow mountain one after another. They spiraled upwards. At the top was the skylight of the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. It was usually sealed with ice. Today, when Naruto arrived, the ice naturally separated and Big Silly flew out with Naruto on its back, followed by two silly. The ice then healed again. Snow Nation is right in front. The two tigers stood side by side. Naruto introduced it to the two Yujito natives. The two Yujito natives were astonished by the scene in front of them. At this moment, there were many unique buildings in Snow Nation. For example, the palace, the virtual reality cinema, the Polar Museum, and so on. There was also the Venice Lake that surrounded the castle like a ribbon. On the Venice Lake of Snow Nation, there were small pod-like boats that swayed gently. The lively snow birds chased each other in front of them, looking extremely adorable. Looking at the scene in front of them, the two Yujito natives couldn't help but praise, "It's so beautiful." Second Last stared at the lake in his body. There should be fish in the lake, right? Second Last felt that this was the important thing. Naruto was very satisfied with Second Last's reaction. He was the one who planned the changes in Snow Nation, and it could be said that it was his painstaking effort. Hence, he felt a sense of accomplishment after being praised. From now on, this will be your home. The two Yujito natives were mesmerized by the scenery. The most unique thing was the surrounding snow. The city was as warm as spring, but the surrounding snow and ice did not melt. That was already far beyond her common sense. The two Yujito natives felt their hearts beating even faster. The words, "From now on, this will be your home," made her feel very sweet. She couldn't help but ask playfully, "Can I run away from home then?" Naruto chuckled sinisterly and said, "The premise is that you can run away." At this moment, Hinata flew over on a silver tiger with black stripes. Naruto-kun. Naruto waved at Hinata and said, "Come, let me introduce you to the new member of the family." When the two Yujito natives saw the adorable Hinata, they couldn't help but ask, "Is this your sister?" Naruto held Hinata's hand and carried Hinata over from the back of the small silver tiger. "Sister? That's right. However, to be precise, she's my wife." All of a sudden, the beautiful kingdom that the two Yujito natives had just weaved in their hearts collapsed. She wanted to leave. Home. Out. Go. No. What damn home? She wanted to leave this place. Chapter 524. P.S. Requesting full subscriptions for this month's explosive update. If there are few subscriptions, this book will end in this month's explosive update. Sorry, after all, little Zhao has to support himself. Beautiful scenery can only be gorgeous when one is in a good mood. However, unimaginable beauty and surprise can also make one's bad mood disappear. When Naruto brought the two Uchihan into Venice, which was built in ice and snow, when the three of them watched the virtual reality movie, The Last Swordswoman together, the gloominess in the hearts of the two Yujito had disappeared without a trace. Instead, it was replaced by the joy of a little girl's innocence. In particular, Naruto even took the two Uchihan out for a meal of the Snow Country's unique snowfish pot. The two Uchihan were not the only ones who were delighted. Even Second Last's emotions were taken into consideration. As for the misunderstanding between Hinata and the two Uchihan when they met, it was also forgotten in the midst of eating, drinking, and having fun. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the three of them lay on the armchairs with a satisfied expression. "Hey, who exactly are you?" The two Uchihan finally asked the question in their hearts. When she was in Iwagakure, she had also asked Naruto about it. At that time, he told her that it was not the right time. Now that they were in his territory and had fun and eaten, it should be the right time. Naruto wiped Hinata's mouth with a tissue. "My name is Uzumaki Naruto, the Nine Tails Human Pillar Force. Nice to meet you." "It's him." The two Uchihan knew the name Uzumaki Naruto. Their faces grew sullen and they questioned, "Didn't you say that you're not from Woodleaf?" Naruto answered with a smile, "Yeah, I don't belong to Woodleaf, although I was born there." The two Yujihans' faces eased up. "Does that mean you're a traitor?" Naruto nodded and said, "There's nothing wrong with that." The two Yujihan looked at Naruto again. The nearly 2-meter-tall boy in front of them was different from the rumors. He was also different from the information received by Kumogakure. "Why did you save me then? What are your motives?" Second last Yujihan was staring at Naruto. Naruto grinned and said, "Ask your big cat." "Big cat?" Slightly stunned, the two Yujihan asked, "Are you talking about another brigade?" Second last's expression of enjoyment, when she heard that it was Nine Tails' human pillar force. How could he forget the scene where half of his Chuck's blood? It's this Jinx. If there is anyone in this world that it doesn't want to see, then other than Kyuubi, it is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. S's is S's. SSSSS. It should have thought of this earlier. The two Yujihan asked second last, "Do you know him?" In second last's sealed space, second last nodded reluctantly and said, "Well, I'm not the only one who knows him. You know him too. He's the one who makes sweet and sour fish and braised fish." The two Yujihan were suddenly enlightened when they heard the two dishes. "You're Sarui." "No, you're Uzumaki Naruto, so you." The two Yujihan stared at Naruto. Naruto smirked and said, "Well, thank you for taking care of me when I sneaked into Kumogakure." The two Yujihan asked, "Sarui's memory loss is also related to you?" Naruto didn't hide it and said, "I originally planned to kill him, but I saw that he had a childhood sweetheart who cared about him so much. So, I searched his memory." The two Yujihan were speechless for a long time. Gritting their teeth, they said, "He's dead, he's dead? Sarui?" The two Yujihan's eyes were a little gloomy. "When the people of Iwagakure suddenly attacked, he died to buy time for me." Naruto didn't feel anything about Sarui. Instead, he felt a little guilty about the girl who loved Sarui. "What about the girl? How is she now?" The two Yujihan replied, "After Sarui lost his memory, the girl has been taking care of him, but Sarui never remembered her. This is a little sad. Now, that girl should still be crying in front of his grave. Maybe she'll blame me." The two Yujihan's expression became even more gloomy. His entire person was listless and listless. Naruto comforted them, "You're a high-level Kumogakure. It's the honor of a ninja to die protecting the Lord. Don't blame yourself too much." The two Yujihan looked at Naruto and asked, "Do you think so?" Naruto raised his eyebrows. He could see that the two Yujihan didn't like this statement. "Do you want to hear the truth?" The two Yujihan nodded. Naruto replied, "I think ninjas are all crazy." The two Yujihan were choked again. In her education, ninja was an honor. But she didn't think it was right for her men to die for her. "I don't allow you to say that about ninjas." Naruto shrugged and didn't answer. The two were silent for a moment, and the two Yujihan spoke again. "First of all, I should thank you for saving me, but I want to go back. Kumogakure needs me." The two Yujihan's expression was firm. Naruto nodded, then pointed to himself. "Yes, but only if you can beat me." The two Yujihan stared at Naruto. Since this person could save her from Iwagakure, his strength must be above her. But Nibi nodded and said, "Okay." So the three of them went out of the shop, rode the tiger again, and found a wild forest that was not a scenic spot. The two Yujihan were ready. Then, they made a move on chakra and screwed up. It was the first time that Nibi had rejected them since they established a cooperative relationship. Nibi sealed the space. The two Yujihan said to Nibi, "I need your chakra." Nibi answered, "I've been a little overweight recently, I don't want to eat fish." What he meant was that he would rather use fish than borrow chakra. The two Yujihan glared at Nibi and asked, "Are you serious?" Nibi glanced at them and said, "Although I want to leave this place too, you can't beat him." The two Yujihan retorted, "We haven't fought yet. How do you know?" Nibi answered, you can suggest that he doesn't use Nine Tails chakra. I think he will agree. You have an advantage. Nine Tails has more chakra than me. The two Uchihan had no choice but to say to Naruto, how about we don't use the power of the tailed beasts? The two Uchihan had already thought of a way to convince Naruto. However, Naruto nodded and agreed. Sure, is that your suggestion? I have a suggestion too. If you lose, you'll have to listen to me from now on. Of course, I don't have to listen to everything you say. I'll give you a challenge every month. If you win, you won't have to listen to me anymore. The suggestion seemed to be beneficial to her. The two Uchihan agreed. Okay. The competition began. All of a sudden, the two Uchihan could no longer move and the competition was cancelled. A flying sword was pressed against Nibby's neck and the tip of the sword pierced a millimeter into her. A drop of blood slowly expanded and flowed down her neck. You've lost. He retracted the flying sword. Naruto took out a student card of the Mercenary Academy and tossed it to the two Uchihan. He then said to Hinata, teach her how to use the card. The two Uchihan only snapped back to their senses when they received the card. They touched their necks. They exclaimed in disbelief, why are you so fast? Naruto pursed his lips and smiled. Continue to work hard. Oh, by the way, I just said that I'll give you a mission to challenge me every month, right? This mission is not unconditional. Your next condition is to join the Mercenary Academy and become the champion of Brainiac Gang. I'll only give you a chance to challenge me after you complete it. Keep it up. I'm going back to cultivate after relaxing for a day. Naruto was overjoyed. He found another person who wanted to be the champion. He wondered if Sasuke could still hold on. Chapter 525. When Naruto returned to his bedroom, he found Tobirama lying on his sofa, looking like he was asleep. The floating aperture of the operation panel in front of Naruto locked onto Tobirama. System prompt: the target is in the Mercenary Academy. System prompt: a voice message from Tobirama. Naruto clicked to answer. Tobirama, I'll arrange the homework and the class will be over soon. Tobirama is in class? Naruto wanted to sit in, but before Naruto could find a place to lie down and enter the Mercenary Academy, Tobirama woke up. You sent me a message so soon, I was planning to sit in on your class. Naruto joked. Tobirama replied, I happen to have nothing to do, so I went to answer a few students' questions. Is he blaming me for coming back late? Well, it was a while, but it was indeed quite late after playing all afternoon. The main reason was that he rarely played with Hinata. Today, he saw that Hinata was also having fun, so he walked around the snow country. By the way, that Human Pillar Force 2 last will also be your student in the future. I arranged a task for her to win the first place on the combat power list. He. Tobirama froze and laughed. If Sasuke knew, he would be very happy. However, it's not that simple to win the first place on the combat power list. She shouldn't pose a threat to Sasuke for at least half a year. Naruto was also very clear about the system of the Mercenary Academy. There was no limit to credits and no limit to subjects. Of course, this subject didn't refer to the category. Take medical ninjutsu for example. There are many subcategories in a major category. Each subcategory has its own credits. After learning and completing the exam, one can get credits. Therefore, Sasuke, who occupies the first place on the combat power list, must have a great advantage. If the two Eugenin want to catch up, they have to catch up with the credits bit by bit first. I feel that the two Eugenin can catch up with Sasuke in 3 months. Do you want to bet? There was a difference between 3 months and half a year. Senju Tobirama was a little surprised. You think so highly of the two Yujito people? Naruto smirked. It's not that I think highly of her, but that I don't think highly of Sasuke. After Sasuke took the first place in the combat strength ranking, he will definitely put more energy into cultivation. Therefore, even if there is an advantage in credits, it is only an advantage. Tobirama nodded. What you said seems to make sense, but I still don't think we can catch up in 3 months. Sure, what do you want to bet? The corners of Naruto's mouth curled up. Let's bet. If your brother finds out about the existence of Whirlpool Mito, who will take the blame when the time comes? If you lose, you take the blame. If I lose, I take the blame. Tobirama stared at Naruto, and Naruto stared at Tobirama. In the end, Tobirama nodded decisively. Let's bet. The two clapped, and Naruto reminded. But you can't tell Sasuke that the two Yujito people want to grab the first place, and you can't remind him in a roundabout way. You can add more classes, but I will observe the quality of the classes. If there is suspicion of giving away credits, hey, you will be miserable. Tobirama said disdainfully. I don't care about that kind of small trick, but the classes you said, Naruto replied. The classes will be the same as the old rules. The other students can participate in the public class. They can watch the videos and participate in the evaluation. Everything was discussed, and the two looked at each other and smiled. Now that Hashirama is back, the stronger Hashirama is, the more powerful the Uzumaki Mito Bomb will be. It's good to be able to give it away. Okay, now start teaching me the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. But I am a little worried about my talent in In Release. Tobirama waved his hand and solemnly said, You are such a pit, you certainly don't lack talent in In Release. Naruto, I'm serious. Tobirama replied. Then I'll answer seriously. Since you can create illusions, it means that your talent in In Release is not a problem. Yang Release and In Release are branches of In Yang Release. In Yang Release is a creation technique. In Release is responsible for creating something tangible from nothing, and Yang Release is responsible for injecting life into tangible things. Naruto knew this. Tobirama said, Come with me, I built a separate classroom in the Mercenary College. The classroom number is S012. Naruto was surprised. Build a classroom, you don't want to make the Flying Thunder God Jutsu a public class, do you? Tobirama nodded. I'll teach you, record an image, and then put it in the elective course. Release the Flying Thunder God Jutsu? Isn't it a bit too much? Wait, this is not the point. Naruto pointed to himself and said, If you want to record an image, then don't I have to record it? I'm the principal, if this is seen by the students. Tobirama said contemptuously. 3 people walk, 1 must be my teacher. Choose the good one and follow it. This is what you said. Naruto stared at him and wanted to refute that this was what Confucius said. Thinking about it, forget it, don't ruin your tall image. Naruto shrugged helplessly, went to find a place to lie down, and then entered the Mercenary College. At this time, Tobirama asked, How many credits do you think the Flying Thunder God Jutsu is appropriate? Naruto replied casually, S-Class Ninjutsu, isn't it a unified 1,000 credits? Naruto suddenly reacted. You want Sasuke to learn this? Suddenly, Naruto found that Tobirama's smile was also quite lascivious. Sasuke's In Release was definitely not a problem. If he learned it, it would be 1,000 credits. TSK. Originally in the first place, plus 1,000 credits, wouldn't he be a few blocks behind the 2 Uchihan? I have to think of a way. Well, the S-Class Ninjutsu is suitable for the 2 Uchihan. It's best if it's not suitable for Sasuke. Like this, Naruto's counterattack was very simple, that is, he also started classes. Coincidentally, he also mastered a lot of S-Class Ninjutsu. Multiple Shadow Clone Jutsu. For a human pillar force, what he was good at was chakra. Lying on the bed, Naruto smiled. System prompt: to enter the Mercenary College, you need to ensure that your body is absolutely safe. System prompt: if your safety is not completely guaranteed, please turn on the security system. System prompt: do you want to turn on the security system? Naruto's choice: yes. System prompt: the security system is turned on, the security scan range is 1 kilometer. System prompt: cut off the body's nerve center movement signal transmission. System prompt: deep spiritual connection is established. 10%, 20%, 30%. Teng. Naruto's eyes lit up, and he appeared in the login space. It was a cubic space with 6 white sides. College prompt: please choose the entry method. Entry methods were normal entry and direct entry into the designated classroom. Normal entry would send the student to the school gate. The student had to walk through the playground corridor to get to the school. Or the privileged class, there would be winged aides. To enter the designated classroom, directly enter the room number. Naruto chose the designated room number. Input: S012. Naruto's body disappeared from the login space. When he reappeared, he was in classroom S012. It was not a classroom with a blackboard, a lectern, a desk, and benches. It was a canyon version of the plum blossom pile. Vast and boundless. Are you sure the simulation of ninjutsu system is stable? Naruto was a little suspicious. Using ninjutsu in the Virtual Reality Academy to achieve the same effect as in reality is theoretically feasible. Because the spiritual network can transmit chakra. Of course, it is not really used, but the training effect is the same. The principle is to scan the body's condition with the identity card. The body is limited by the system to release a weak amount of chakra. The form of the released chakra is scanned to determine whether the casting is successful. The released chakra will be absorbed by the spiritual network. The result will affect the simulation effect in the virtual classroom. Tobirama replied, "Didn't I ask you to do the test?" Naruto's mouth twitched. It's one thing to treat me, the headmaster, as a student in a teaching recording, but you also treat me, the headmaster, as a lab rat? Where is the dignity of the headmaster? Chapter 526. Land of Lightning. Kumogakure. When Reikage returned to the village and learned that the Nibi human pillar force was kidnapped, a thunderbolt rose from the ground and rushed into the sky. Then, Kumogakure put diplomatic pressure on Iwagakure. They asked Iwagakure to send the Nibi human pillar force back, or they would launch an all-out war against Iwagakure. In this regard, the Tsuchikage's mood can only be said to be dumb and suffer in silence. If the Nibi human pillar force was in his hands, he would fight. Tsuchikage thought that the land of Earth had the ability to keep the Nibi. However, the Nibi's Jinchuriki was now rescued. Not only did he not get the sheep, but he also got himself into trouble. Land of Earth. Iwagakure. Tsuchikage's office. Did you find it? There shouldn't be many ninjas in this world who can use steel release. The Umbu ninja replied, in all the information, the ninjas who can use steel release are the ninja named Hirako who disappeared a few years ago in the village. Excluding the former possibility, the possibility of Hirako is very high. But that person's appearance doesn't match with Hirako's information. With that, the Umbu ninja handed the collected information to Tsuchikage. Tsuchikage took it, opened it, and frowned. This person turned out to be a wood leaf defector. Well, he studied taboo jutsu and escaped from the village. Behind Tsuchikage was a girl in a red dress. The girl blinked her big eyes and took a peek. This person was Tsuchikage's apprentice, Kuratsuchi. Defector. Doesn't that mean he has nothing to do with Woodleaf? The girl's voice was full of disappointment. Tsuchikage replied, "Humph. They said he's a defector, so he's a defector? Maybe he's Woodleaf's secret power." The girl blinked. "What do you mean, sensei?" Tsuchikage's face darkened. "Since we found out about them, we can't let them relax." Immediately, Tsuchikage picked up the brush and wrote. It was for Reikage. He didn't deny the fact that the Nibi human pillar force was kidnapped. He also explained that the Nibi was rescued. It meant that the most urgent thing now was to find the Nibi so that Reikage wouldn't be angry. After writing it, they would roll it up and throw it to the Umbu ninja. "Have you found out the cause of death of the other ninjas?" The Umbu ninja continued to report. The injuries on the bodies of the dead ninjas were caused by water-release ninjutsu, but at the same time, it was detected that all the ninjas' brain nerves were also damaged, so it is speculated that they were first hit by genjutsu, then their breathing was blocked by water release and they drowned. At the same time, we learn from the spies in the Mist Village that 3 days ago, there was a similar death in the Mist Village. Therefore, we speculate that it might be the same person. Now I'm checking the files to find ninjas who are good at this kind of ninjutsu. Hearing this, Tsuchikage frowned. No need to check, I already know who it is. The Tsuchikage raised his hand and tapped his temple. Go down and give the letter to the Reikage. When the Umbu ninja left, the little girl asked quietly, Teacher, who is that person? The Tsuchikage sighed and replied, A dead man, but now he is alive. The Tsuchikage picked up a brush and drew a snake. The Tsuchikage stared at the snake and laughed. It looked like he was laughing at himself. The grudge between Kumogakure and Iwagakure definitely won't be wiped out by a letter. The only effect of this letter was to postpone the war. Unless they can find the Nibi human pillar force. At the same time, this letter has another effect. As long as Kumogakure doubts Wood Leaf and questions them, the conflict will increase. The Tsuchikage wasn't worried about this at all. Because a few years ago, Kumogakure invaded Wood Leaf and kidnapped the Hyuga clan. This time, if Wood Leaf kidnapped the Nibi human pillar force, it will make sense. As long as Kumogakure and Wood Leaf fight, then it will add an ally to Iwagakure. An ally of the enemy of the enemy. This will also reduce the pressure on Iwagakure and the possible losses. Of course, it may also attract the hostility of Wood Leaf. With Wood Leaf's current strength, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Snow Country, Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. 2 Yujihans stood in front of Naruto with a responsible expression. They were struggling with themselves and begging. Naruto, let me go. Otherwise, Kumogakure and Iwagakure will be in war because of me. Naruto didn't care about it and ate a large cup of ice cream made for him by Hinata. You can start a war because of you? You think too highly of yourself. The 2 Yujihan pointed to themselves and said, I am the Nibi human pillar force. Naruto still replied casually, I am the Nine Tails human pillar force. Look, I disappeared. Wood Leaf is fighting with someone. The 2 Yujihan were angry and said seriously, this is different. You defected by yourself, and I was kidnapped by the Tsuchikage. Naruto replied, yes, you also know that you were kidnapped by the Tsuchikage. If the Reikage is a good parent, he should teach the Tsuchikage a lesson. The 2 Yujihan stared at Naruto. At this time, Naruto's image in her heart was only left with one word, asking for a beating. What will it take for you to let me go? Naruto took a big sip of the cold drink. Then he pointed to himself with the spoon and said, simple, defeat me or kill me. As long as you are stronger than me, I can't keep you. The 2 Yujihan's beautiful eyes widened. Naruto's words were so reasonable that they couldn't refute it. If I can beat you, I will teach you a lesson like the naughty kid I saw on the street yesterday. The naughty kid I saw yesterday? Hinata filled 2 large cups of ice cream for the 2 and gave one each to Uzumaki Mito, Senju Tobarama, and Kabuto Yakushi. At this time, she ran back. Hearing the 2 Yujihan mention the naughty kid yesterday, she laughed. That naughty kid, I don't think he will make any mistakes in the future. His ass was almost broken into 4 pieces. Well, he took off his pants and slapped him on the street. A layer of black lines appeared on Naruto's face. He glared at the 2 Yujihan. You have to pay attention to your words. You can't slap me. Instead, you make me angry. Maybe I'll slap you like that. Naruto lowered his voice. Take off your pants on the street and slap me. The 2 Yuki were so angry that they looked like blowfish, panting as they stared at Naruto. Naruto smiled and said, in fact, it's nothing. Did you forget that you beat me on the street in Kumogakure? The 2 Yujihan were stunned. Is there such a thing? There is such a thing. The 2 Yujihan's momentum weakened, but then it didn't decrease. That's because you asked for it. Tell me the truth. Were you the one who planned all of that? Naruto was a little guilty. He said perfunctorily, "How is that possible? It's just a coincidence." The two Yujihan asked, "Is it a coincidence that you slipped and fell from the bridge?" Naruto said vaguely, "That's because I was really weak at that time, and the body I used wasn't my own." "What's so surprising about your foot slipping?" "You have to know that it's not my body. It's hard to control it." Hinata sat next to Naruto and began to eat ice cream. The two Yujihan turned their grief into appetite and began to eat as well. The two Yujihan took a few bites and said, "If Kumogakure and Iwagakure fight, it will definitely not be a matter of two villages. It will definitely affect the whole world and set off the Fourth World War." "What's in it for you?" Naruto smacked his lips. "You want to know?" The two Yujihan nodded seriously. Naruto smiled and said, "If they fight, I'll become the savior to quell the war and unify the world." The two Yujihan were stunned and stared at Naruto fiercely. "I'm serious." Naruto took another bite. "Why, you don't believe this answer? Then I'll change it." "Well, as a human pillar force, I was so miserable when I was a child. I want to take revenge on the world." The two Yujihan believed, and their eyes flashed with the radiance of motherly love. It was a look with sympathy and pity. "Naruto, I believe that those who bullied you must be wrong, but if you fight back in this way, what's the difference between you and those people? You're just creating more of yourself from the past, creating more sadness." Naruto blinked. "What you said makes sense. I don't know how to respond." The two Yujihan's eyes became softer. For a moment, all the things that Naruto did that made her hate him became cute. This is a powerful filter of motherly love. Chapter 527. On another beautiful morning, Naruto received a call from Hirako. "Boss, I've regained control of the underground market in the Land of Water." Naruto grumbled, "This was originally your territory, yet you took almost a week to regain control. This speed. Isn't it a bit too slow?" Hirako hurriedly apologized. "Although it's my territory, I don't usually manage things, it's all my subordinates, and those people are already dead, so there's a gap between them, so I wasted a bit of time." The gap Hirako was talking about was Inazheim and her two dead brothers, as well as the girl who signed a contract with the demonic ape king. "Alright, there's no point in talking about you now, since you've already regained control, then record the data of the underground market in the Land of Water into the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute's database. After the data has been recorded, you can issue an ID card, according to the previous plan, send it to the captain first. After that, quickly go to the Land of Wind. The information of the people there is still relatively complete. Right, if the higher-ups of the underground market ask about the mine network, you should know how to answer, right?" Hirako hurriedly replied, "I know, just hold on for a while, then use the excuse of organizing the technology to control the leaders of the other areas." Naruto nodded. There are a total of 5 areas. If you control 2 more, you'll have quite a bit of authority in the underground market. At that time, I'll at least be able to deal with 1 more." The call with Hirako ended. Naruto went to the laboratory connected to his bedroom. Inside the laboratory stood a handsome dragonhawk. It was 2 meters tall, covered in coffee-colored feathers with a black wood-like texture. This dragonhawk was the one that was transplanted with Hashirama's cells. It successfully survived, broke through the shadow of death, and welcomed a new life. Next, it's time to transplant the Sharingan. Naruto wasn't in a hurry to transplant the Sharingan. He planned to cultivate 4 more dragonhawks with Hashirama's cells, then transplant all 5 of them together. After all, if Hashirama's cells were successfully transplanted, the chances of something happening to the Sharingan were very small. Because Naruto discovered that the Sharingan had a natural affinity with Hashirama's cells. "Big Fatty, give me another Dragon Eagle." After assigning a task to Defei, Naruto contacted Yakushi Kabuto via mental link. "How are the 200 fake Sharingans?" Apothecary replied, "If you want to make it last for a long time, you'll need 3 more months." 3 months was not a long time. "Sure, keep up the good work." These 200 fake Sharingans were used by Naruto to replace the 200 Sharingans that Obito had hidden. It was not to confuse Obito, but because Naruto suspected that Obito knew about that place. Naruto came to the Dragon Eagle's side and raised his hand to touch its head. Although the Dragon Eagle was arrogant, it was very cooperative when it saw that it was Naruto. Naruto felt that it should be the effect of the psychological hint of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Excellent! Naruto praised. Soon, a snow condor arrived at the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute with the Dragonhawk in tow. This snow eagle was one of the two that Windflower Little Snow had saved. Now, he should be assisting Defei in managing the ninja beast garden created by Naruto. You will be called Long E from now on. Naruto touched the Dragon Eagle. Go and meet your future neighbors, the Fat Ball family on the first floor. You should be more powerful than them now, you can't bully them. Long E nodded his head, then flapped his wings and circled around the research institute. Naruto entered the laboratory with the new Dragon Eagle. Long E looked at the new little fellow. It called out, and its domineering tone was filled with gentleness. Thinking about its own experience, it could guess what this little fellow was going to experience. It hoped that this little fellow could survive, then it would have one more companion in the future. At this time, a tiger roar came. Long E lowered his head to look, and saw a silver-colored little fatty. Was this the Fat Ball family that Master had mentioned? It was indeed very fat. Long E flew over. It remembered that Master had said to greet the neighbors. In the laboratory, it was still the same process. When Naruto erased the will of the first-generation Naruto in the first-generation cells, Naruto used the Mangekyo Sharingan to give this little eagle a psychological hint to live. Then, he closed the laboratory. Come on, I hope you can still be alive when I come again tomorrow. Naruto returned to his bedroom and lay on the bed. Danzo's arm was on the bedside. First-generation cells. If I transplant them to Hinata, then will Hinata's Byakugan evolve into Tenseigan? If not, then when my strength increases a little, I will go to the moon and extract the cells of that Otsutsuki Tonari. Then, when should I transplant them to Hinata? This was not the first day that Naruto thought about this matter. Siko muttered to himself, let's wait a little longer. If there is no problem with this batch of eagles, then I will give Hinata the first-generation cells. But I still feel a little insecure. After all, people and ninja beasts were different, right? Then, should I fuse with them first? Naruto also had the idea of fusing with the first-generation cells for a long time. Just because there is some rejection of something that is not on his body. But now that even the eyes have been transplanted, there is nothing to reject. Then it's settled, I will transplant the Dragon Eagle first. After the Dragon Eagle transplant, he will transplant it. When he succeeds, he will transplant it to Hinata. System prompt, it's time for class. Naruto took a breath. It's Tobirama's class to learn the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Naruto lay on the bed. Click to enter the Mercenary Academy. After a series of system prompts, Naruto appeared in the six-sided login space. Academy prompt, please choose the way to enter. This time, Naruto chose the normal way to enter. Naruto appeared at the school gate. Campus broadcast, welcome to the school for inspection, principal. This time, Naruto felt that his B points have increased a lot. When the surrounding students saw Naruto, they lined up and saluted. Their style was like a marshal who came to review the troops. Naruto also noticed that many of these students have their own black technology. Some have a pair of wings behind them that can fly in the school. At this time, when they saw Naruto, they all landed. There are also all kinds of small cars. There is a balanced car that Naruto told Gunny. In the design of Mecha, the Autobots Bumblebee and so on. How did little Gunny manage to create all these things? Naruto looked a little envious and was eager to try. But he is now the principal. The principal needs to be serious. Cough cough, everyone do their own thing. Under the order, the students dispersed. This time, it was no longer a random flying or racing car, but a group of 3-5, the regular army marching in neat formation. The military management is good. Looking at the pleasing sight, Naruto felt a sense of accomplishment. Naruto walked to the middle of the field. Naruto wanted to see the two obelisks, which is the top student list and the bottom student list. Then, Naruto saw the names of the two Yujito Neon on the top of the top student list. Bottom student list, first place, 2 Yujito Neon, credits, 0 Naruto's face darkened. The two Yujito Neon should have been here for a few days, but they haven't finished a single subject. Well, for these kind of problem students, as the principal, he needs to do some thinking. Chapter 528. The first step of the Flying Thunder God technique is to condense the Flying Thunder God technique. Tobirama's Flying Thunder God technique is the emblem of the Senju clan. As for Naruto, he was still thinking. The Flying Thunder God technique needs a totem that can make your spiritual power highly concentrated. Tobirama looked at Naruto. Naruto thought for a moment, well, I don't need to be so troublesome, I have a strong control over my spiritual power. Tobirama shook his head. The concentration of the will needs not only to eliminate the distracting thoughts, but also, in other words, there must be a totem that can make you give up everything to protect. To put it simply, it is to replace what you want to protect with a totem. Give up everything to protect. Naruto thought of Hinata. So, should he draw Hinata? Or draw alone? Naruto shook his head. How could it be inexplicably dirty? What else was there to protect at all costs? Naruto suddenly thought of one, picked up the pen and wrote a word, life, on the scroll. Life must be protected at all costs. If you lose your life, what is the use of everything? Tobirama looked at Naruto's writing. Naruto wrote thin gold, and the words looked very hard. Like a bamboo, but also very bleak, like a maple leaf blown down by the autumn wind in autumn. Then, is there anything more important than life? Naruto shook his head affirmatively. No. Tobirama was about to speak, but he didn't say it after thinking about it. For a ninja, life is important, but completing the task is more important, which represents the glory of the family. But Naruto, who has been alone since childhood, don't mention any family glory. He can be sure that Naruto doesn't regard himself as a ninja. Not to mention anything else, there are no ninjas in the snow country, only mercenaries. It seems that the difference is not big, but in fact, it is big. There is a qualitative difference. A ninja needs to give up everything and obey orders. And mercenaries take people's money to eliminate disasters. If they weren't capable enough, they wouldn't force it. At most, they would lose a deal and earn less money. Yes, the Flying Thunder God technique's imprint is a pair. One is imprinted in the weapon, and the other is imprinted in the heart. Naruto thought for a while, then picked up the pen and wrote, Fate, on the scroll. Tobirama looked at Naruto's handwriting, which was a little different from the previous handwriting. It didn't seem so hard anymore, and there was a gentleness to it. Tobirama couldn't describe the feeling, but he felt that this word was different from before. But at the moment, he couldn't figure out what was different. At the same time, Naruto focused on the word. This word represented Hinata's life. Was Hinata the only one who needed his protection? If Gurney and the others were in danger, would he be willing to take the risk? Yes. Because he believed that if he was in danger, Guenai and the others would be willing to help. And Big Fatty. And Naruto raised his brush once more. It was another life, but this one was exceptionally dignified. This life represented all the people he thought needed to be protected, and all the people who stood beside him. Naruto looked at the word and stood still. He didn't know how long he had been looking at it. Tobirama beside him marveled at the good handwriting. He soon noticed that something was wrong with Naruto. Tobirama wanted to call Naruto, but he raised his hand and pushed him out with his spiritual force. Naruto entered a state of forgetfulness. When Naruto came back to his senses, he looked around and frowned. Then he left the S102 classroom, the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. Naruto looked up and looked around. He didn't intentionally control the Sharingan, but the Sharingan directly entered the Mangekyo Sharingan mode. The consumption of chakra was surprisingly small. Naruto looked around. Then his spiritual body left his body and entered the spiritual world of Fugu. Looking at the image linked to the little flying squirrel. That image was the environment around the little flying squirrel. The little flying squirrel was sleeping on a bed, and Deidara was making clay figures on one side. This time, it was actually Tsunade. Naruto didn't pay attention to Haiden and continued to study the connection between Fugu and the little flying squirrel. The little flying squirrel closed its eyes and slept. Obviously, what Naruto saw was not the little flying squirrel's vision, but an image constructed under some rules. Naruto put his hand into the image, and a suction force came. Naruto felt the suction force and then entered. Naruto observed the other side in the little flying squirrel's spiritual world. Naruto thought of the substitution technique. Comparing the two ninjutsu. The principle of the substitution technique was really related to the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. The reason why the substitution technique was small was because the rules were incomplete. It lacked a stable teleportation coordinate, which was the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Also, there was the In attribute chakra's nature of creating something out of nothing. It lacked the rule authority. The two images that linked Fugu and the little flying squirrel should be something similar to the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Thinking of this, Naruto raised his hand and wrote the word life in the little flying squirrel's spiritual world. Then, he returned to the main body and wrote the word life in the main body. Naruto felt that there was a weak connection between the two words. Naruto felt the connection between Fugu and the little flying squirrel again. At this time, the Manjikyu Sharingan in Naruto's eyes was triggered. The Sharingan's ability to copy. Naruto saw the entire process of the image formation. Could this be the real way to use the Sharingan? Analyzing and copying the rules. But he was a spiritual body now. Naruto replied to the main body. 9 tails sealed the space. The liquid formed by soul power rose from the ground and turned into a mirror. Naruto looked at himself in the mirror. His spiritual body's left eye had become a Sharingan. It wasn't like this in the past. Ever since Naruto dug out his eye, his spiritual body was missing an eye. The mirror turned back into soul power and disappeared. Naruto raised his hand and used the expanded rules of the Sharingan in the main body. A vortex surrounded Naruto's hand and spun. The vortex reflected the little flying squirrel's image. It's done. Naruto raised his hand to touch the image, and a suction force came. Enter. The next moment, Naruto appeared in the little flying squirrel's spiritual world. He returned to the main body again. Naruto's heart was already bang, bang, bang. He jumped up. Let's try the Flying Thunder God technique. He recalled all the records about the Flying Thunder God technique in the Book of Seals. Naruto closed his eyes and wrote the word life in the spiritual world. Then, he summoned the flying sword. Chakra condensed the word life. The flying sword flew out. Flying Thunder God technique. Naruto felt that the space around his body seemed to distort. He also felt this feeling when he used Kamui. There was a reaction. But there were still flaws. At this time, a message came from Tobirama. Naruto-san, I want to seriously emphasize one thing. Now is the time for class. According to the school's rules and regulations, students who don't ask for leave during class, arbitrarily skipping class is a very... Tobirama didn't finish his words. Naruto replied, I am now ordering you to come to me as the principal. Tobirama was taken aback and immediately replied, yes. Tobirama woke up from his bedroom and rolled his eyes. He muttered, Naruto won't be so stingy, I just pretended to be cool. When Tobirama came, Naruto's spiritual body entered Tobirama's spiritual world. Show me the process of planting the Flying Thunder God technique imprint in the spiritual world. Tobirama was taken aback. That you said that the meal should be eaten one bite at a time. You are, Naruto's face was stern, I am the principal. Tobirama, yes. Chapter 529. Do you understand? After Tobarama finished the demonstration, a stone tablet appeared in the spiritual world of Tobarama. The emblem of the Senju clan was imprinted on the stone tablet. Naruto nodded. Then his spirit body withdrew from the spiritual world of Tobarama. He threw an ordinary kunai to Tobarama. Demonstrate the process of imprinting the Flying Thunder God technique. Tobarama passed the kunai indirectly. It was imprinted. After Naruto finished watching, he sat on the sofa and thought. Tobarama quietly glanced at Naruto. Silence. After 5 or 6 minutes, Tobarama felt that his teacher needed to say something. He found that Naruto had finally come back to his senses. With a wave of his hand, the flying sword appeared in his hand, and chakra poured in. A life character was imprinted on the hilt. The flying sword flew out 10 meters, and the tip of the sword hung down in the middle of Naruto's private living room. The next moment, Naruto disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was standing on the hilt of the flying sword. Tobarama's eyes widened. F***CK. Then Naruto summoned the other 4 flying swords again, imprinting the Flying Thunder God technique. 5 flying swords were hanging in 5 directions. Naruto's figure disappeared and reappeared on the 5 swords, and then disappeared and reappeared again. It's too small here, I'll go out and play. Naruto went out of the room, and Tobarama was dumbfounded. What's going on? Is my ninjutsu so easy to learn? In the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, Naruto flew straight up on the flying sword. Seeing Naruto flying up, Long E and Big Fool's family thought that Naruto was going to go out, and scrambled to follow. Long E was in front, and behind him were 3 fat balls. Roar! Hearing the movement behind him, Naruto stopped. You also want to go out and play? Let's go together. Big Fool's family looked at the flying sword under Naruto's feet. What is this? Shouldn't their master belong to them? Big Fool narrowed his eyes and stared at the flying sword, growling in a low voice. Then she rubbed her head against Naruto. That head was about the same size as Naruto. Naruto understood Big Fool's intention. Let's change the game today. Follow me. The skylight opened, and Naruto took Big Idiot's family as well as Long E and flew into the sky. Come, let's see who can fly to the kingdom first. The capital of the Snow Country was more than 10 miles away from the Great Snow Mountain. Naruto shouted a slogan, and under his command, Long E and Big Fool, who were already prepared, rushed out. 2 Dumb and Little 3 followed closely behind. Naruto stood on his flying sword and chased after him. Originally, the reason why Naruto didn't use a flying sword was because it was too slow. Naruto's steel escape and magnetic escape had greatly restricted his speed, especially in terms of acceleration. But this time, it was different. Naruto could first accelerate the flying sword alone. Naruto's hand pressed on the hilt of the flying sword. 4-block monstrous force. Launch. The flying sword broke through the air and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Flying Thunder God technique. Naruto appeared on the flying sword in the next moment. It felt like skateboarding. He summoned another sword. Launch again. Naruto's figure disappeared again. In an instant, he leaped over Big Fool's family and chased after Long E. Carefree. Whoosh. Naruto accelerated again and arrived at the kingdom. 2nd place, Long E. 3rd place, Big Fool. 4th place, 2 Dumb. 5th place, Little 3. Several giant beasts flew straight to the roof of the palace, scaring many tourists. Look, there are giant beasts flying over. Several of them. Although the native residents of the Snow Country didn't recognize the eagle, they recognized the 3 big tigers. The 3 tigers seemed to be chasing the eagle. Was something going to happen? As for Naruto in front of the eagle, civilians with poor eyesight couldn't see clearly, but many mercenaries of the Snow Country saw it, although it was just a glimpse. In the alley, Snow Wolf, who was playing with his sister by the lake, had a look of worship on his face. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was on a pilgrimage. "Brother, if I'm not mistaken, that's the headmaster, right?" Snow Butterfly blinked. At this time, Naruto had used the Flying Thunder God technique again and disappeared. Snow Wolf was still looking at the sky. "It should be the headmaster," Snow Butterfly said with incomparable worship. "Then is the headmaster using space ninjutsu? The headmaster is so young and so powerful. I want to marry him." Snow Wolf lowered his head and glanced at his sister. You're not even worthy of being the headmaster's foot washing water." Snow Butterfly was furious. How can a brother belittle his sister like this? Snow Wolf pressed his big hand on Snow Butterfly's head. "But you might have hope in a few years. I heard the headmaster likes big breasts." Well, if this scene was seen by Naruto, who knew what would happen? Zero and Zero, who were in the courtyard, also saw this scene. 05 grabbed 01's hand. That was 07, right? Was it 007? 001 said matter-of-factly, "Only that guy can make such a big scene." The president came out of the house and curiously asked, "What are you talking about?" 001 carefully pointed to the sky. She knew that for some reason, the president has been sulking with 001. The president raised his head and took a look. "Oh, those silly fat tigers. What's there to see?" "Ha! There's an eagle." The president looked for something, but couldn't find it, so she turned around and went back. 001 was also looking at the sky with resentment. "Naruto hasn't come yet. What's more annoying is that Nine Tails doesn't seem to care about her." Snow Country's Imperial Palace. Naruto called out, "I'll give you one more chance. This time, if you can keep up with me, there will be a reward." After saying that, Naruto's flying sword shot out. Flying Thunder God technique. Naruto disappeared. In the distant sky, Naruto shouted, "Here!" The little guys roared and chased after him. The long sword pierced through the sky, and the sword was like a dragon. Naruto's figure floated in the air, playing with his little guys very happily. Tobirama stood on the top of the snowy mountain, looking at Naruto in the sky, holding back for a long time. He said 2 words, "Monster." This evaluation is not only for Naruto who learned Flying Thunder God technique, but also for Naruto who doesn't need to control himself at all. He can use S-class ninjutsu as a toy. But, if it's the chakra supply system that provides chakra, as long as there are enough points, others seem to be able to do it. Tobirama looked at his account. Thinking about it, he gave up. Those points are his hard-earned money. Heartache. Then Tobirama thought of the defect of the supply system, that is, the naturally synthesized chakra contains spiritual power, which affects the efficiency of casting. This problem can be solved by adding chakra separation technique to the client and turning chakra into vitality. But because the core of chakra separation technique has not been analyzed, it seems that I have to find time to urge Mito. Because of Mito's own request, he doesn't call Mito brother and sister-in-law now. It seems that I can't escape. The 2 Yujito stood beside Tobirama and only felt darkness in front of them. Tobirama replied, "What's wrong with staying here? The short-term war is worth it compared to eternal peace." The 2 Yujito didn't understand. Tobirama has turned back. What everyone is talking about. Chapter 530. Why didn't you go to class? The principal of Naruto University came to the 2 Uchihan with a kind face. The 2 Yujito were lying lazily on the sofa in the living room like kittens. Naruto didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the 2 Yujito were a little fatter than a few days ago. Because class is boring. And I can't keep up with most of the classes. Naruto sat down opposite the 2 Yujito. But you can't give up. You have to know that if you want to be qualified to challenge me, you have to get first place in the Brainiac gang. The 2 Yujito rolled their eyes at Naruto. Don't mention this to me. I'm so screwed over by you. How do you expect me to catch up with such a high score and a gap of thousands of points? Naruto said earnestly, "You can't give up. You have to cherish the learning opportunity you have now. You have to know that only knowledge can change your fate. Do you know how hard it is to get this learning opportunity? Do you know how much the student card in your hand can be sold for?" The two Yujito were puzzled. Sold? Aren't they all your private soldiers? Private soldiers were right, but not all of them. At least the students in the non-combat department were all learning how to make a living. Also, many merchants who had a business relationship with Naruto were racking their brains to buy a student card after seeing the recruitment brochure of the mercenary university. Some were for their own use, and some were for their children. Naruto only released 5 cards a month. The rarer something was, the more expensive it was. The price of this card naturally skyrocketed. You can't say that it's a private soldier. The school is just an educational institution. As for where they want to work after graduation, it's up to me. Let's not talk about the value of this card first. Let's talk about you not going to school again. The two Yujito turned over and lay on the sofa, kicking and kicking. What's there to talk about? Even if I get first place in the Brainiac gang. So what? Can I beat you? The two of them rolled their eyes at Naruto, then closed their eyes in a fit of pique and continued to wait for their meal. In Kumogakure, the two Yujito felt that they were strong enough. Although he wasn't the first, he was still ranked third. The first was Raikage, the second was Killer Bee. But after coming here and meeting Naruto, she doubted whether Raikage could deal with Naruto. Not to mention anything else, just the space ninjutsu that allows him to fly in the sky is enough to kill Raikage. Naruto rubbed his nose awkwardly. Ahem, I feel like you're praising me. How about this? You can specify the abilities that I'm not allowed to use. How about that? The two Yumu people stopped in their tracks and turned to look at Naruto. Are you serious? Naruto nodded. I'm serious. The two of them said, then what was the ninjutsu you used to fly around in the sky yesterday? Naruto didn't hide it. Flying Thunder God Jutsu, you should know it. The two Yujito did know, after all, it was the famous technique of Yondaime Naruto. Because of this technique, Yondaime Naruto got the name Yellow Flash. That's not right. Isn't Flying Thunder God Jutsu on the ground? Naruto summoned his flying sword. This is simple metal control and magnetic release. It can make metal weapons fly. Combining this with Flying Thunder God Jutsu, it's the effect you saw yesterday. The two Yujito asked stupidly, metal control is? Naruto replied, it's a special chakra nature change. The two Yujito suddenly didn't want to talk, especially when they heard Naruto talking about these abilities as if they were as simple as cabbages. Comparisons are odious. Then if I forbid you from using your set of attack methods, would you agree? Including all the means to make weapons fly, no, you are not allowed to use weapons, you are not allowed to use Flying Thunder God Jutsu. The two Yujito stared at Naruto. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief in his heart and was about to agree. He suddenly realized that he couldn't agree so easily. Otherwise, the two Yujito would definitely climb up the pole and continue to make other requests. Naruto replied, you are not only forbidding one of my abilities, but also forbidding weapons, steel release, magnetic release, Flying Thunder God Jutsu, forbidding 4 of them at once. The two Yujito lay back down again. If you don't agree, then forget it, and even if you agree, I won't do it, you still have Sharingan, you can't beat me at all. Naruto. What a pain in the ass. I want to slap her. Naruto didn't care whether the two Yujito went to school or not. What he cared about was whether Nibi Yujito could get the first place on the list of top students. He made a bet with Tobirama. Naruto's expression became serious. If you don't escape, Iwagakure and Kumogakure will fight, you don't care? The two Yujito were angry. What's the use of caring? She can't escape. Naruto continued to add fuel to the fire. Also, according to reliable news, Iwagakure has already blamed this matter on Woodleaf, and now this matter has involved 3 major countries. World War, on the verge of breaking out. The two Yujito stared at Naruto and roared, Uzumaki Naruto. Is all of this because you locked me up here? Don't make it sound like it's all my fault. What a big anger. What a majestic momentum. Naruto touched his nose awkwardly and said with a guilty conscience, although the main culprit is me, you can't use it as a reason not to work hard, or you will be my accomplice. The two Yujito stared at Naruto with resentment. If Naruto could eat, she wouldn't be polite now. What are you talking about? It's so loud. Atsuchi and Atsuchi were shocked by you. Hinata waved to the two. The meal is ready, let's eat. Whoosh. The two Yujito disappeared. Naruto's mouth twitched. He muttered, mud can't support the wall. Today Hinata made steak. On the dining table, the knives in the hands of the two Uchihan clattered on the plates. It can be seen that Naruto was very angry. Naruto scolded, eat properly. Then there was silence. After the meal, the two Yujito disappeared and lay on the sofa again. Naruto's face was full of black lines. How about this, on the basis of your request, I won't use the ability of Sharingan, and let you use the power of Bijou, if? The two Yujito were surprised. Really? Naruto said, really? If you don't have the courage to challenge like this, you are too useless. The two Yujito gave Naruto a white look. You are useless. I agree. Naruto was finally relieved. The two Yujito began to look for elective courses. After a while, they climbed down again. It's not to enter the mercenary academy, but to empty themselves again. It seems that they are waiting for dinner. Naruto's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. What's wrong? The two Yujito's eyes had lost their dreams, and their faces were blank. I am 2,600 points away from the first place. Elective courses are generally 10 to 30 points per class. I can't catch up in a month. Naruto took a breath and said in a calm tone, I can give you 3 months. The two Yujito shook their heads again. That's not possible. Yesterday's first place was 2,500 points away from me, and today's 100 points more. The two Yujito's eyes were only left with despair. I don't think it's possible to cause a world war because of me. Besides, even if it causes a world war, the biggest responsibility is Iwagakure and Tsuchikage. He kidnapped me, and I am also a victim. So, let me continue to be dispirited. By the way, Hinata's necklace yesterday was very beautiful. I heard that she also bought it in the snow country. I will go shopping with Hinata later. Naruto, you are not allowed to go. You will lead Hinata astray. The two Yujito blinked. Led astray? Hinata doesn't go to school. Hinata, who was walking down the stairs, stiffened and winked at the two Yujito. The two Yujito were stunned and apologetically covered their mouths. Naruto looked at Hinata. Hinata, why are you always at home? Hinata was about to cry. Because I have to cook for you. Cook? Doesn't it only take 30 minutes to cook? Naruto apologized. It seems that I delayed your study. I will cook tomorrow, and you and the two Yujito will go to school together. Hinata suddenly lost her dreams. The two Yujito bit their lips timidly. Chapter 531. In Naruto's exclusive laboratory, after Ryuichi, the second dragon eagle also survived. According to the order, Naruto named the second dragon eagle too. At the same time, Naruto can preliminarily determine that as long as the will of Hashirama is erased in the cells, it will no longer be difficult to fuse with Hashirama's cells. Of course, this is only relative. Whether it is Dragon 1 or Dragon 2, the process of transformation can only be described as miserable. The blood in the laboratory, broken feathers, and some bone fragments squeezed out of the skin are all shocking. It can be imagined that if it wasn't for the Manjikyu Sharingan, the possibility of the Dragon Eagle surviving is very low. The third Dragon Eagle continued. When Naruto closed the door, he couldn't help but think, if the 200 ordinary Sharingan in the hands of Obito were also in his hands. Then, Would he have to make another 100 dragon eagles with Sharingan transplants? There can be, but the problem is that Hashirama's cells are not enough. The flesh that was dug out of White Zetsu's body showed no signs of recovery. After digging out a piece, the wound healed, and the body lost a piece of flesh forever. Even if Naruto used medical ninjutsu to assist, the wound of White Zetsu couldn't be repaired. Naruto, this egg isn't dead, is it? Why hasn't it hatched yet? Kyuubi sealed the space. From time to time, Kyuubi would look at the giant egg with 6 cracks. Every time he looked at it, it made him uncomfortable for a while. Naruto's consciousness entered the sealed space of Nine Tails. Nine Tails looked at him and said, "Don't talk nonsense, such a strong life fluctuation, how can it be dead?" Nine Tails suggested, "Why don't you kick it? Maybe it will hatch." Kick it? What kind of bad idea is this? Naruto's mouth twitched. I think that if the remaining 3-tailed beast's chakra are integrated into the egg, it will hatch. Nine Tails urged, "Then what are you waiting for, go find those guys. The sooner this egg hatches, the sooner I will be free of worry. Why don't I look at this egg in front of me and feel annoyed?" Nine Tails wasn't the only one who was upset. Naruto was actually quite upset as well. It's not hard to find 6-tailed and 7-tailed. As for 3-tailed, I wonder if he's revived. Nine Tails continued to urge, "Don't worry about that for now. Let's fuse with 6 tails and 7 tails first. Who knows, maybe they'll hatch." Could he? Naruto was also a little tempted. Perhaps it would really work. After all, other than the chakra, this egg also fused with other attributes, such as Ice Escape, Wood Escape, Underworld Escape, Swift Escape, and Mist Escape. Then let's go find 7 tails first. Nanabai is in Takigakure. Naruto opened the map. Everyone with an ID card would be marked on the map. Among them, the one closest to the Takigakure was Wolf Girl, who was still looking for the Stone of Grayer. Naruto contacted She-Wolf and said, "Summon me over." The next moment, Naruto appeared beside She-Wolf. Naruto looked around. They were in the forest, so he could see that She-Wolf didn't slack off. "Master." She-Wolf respectfully saluted Naruto. "Well, don't be nervous. I'm not here to inspect your work. Take your time." She-Wolf saluted again. "It's all because of me that I delayed Master's work." "Was it delayed?" "No, the Stone of Grayer is just a solid chakra. The Great Snow Mountain Research Institute doesn't lack chakra now." However, Naruto was quite satisfied with She-Wolf's work attitude. Well, she's worth training. Then, when he and Hinata fuse with Shodai's cells, he could consider using Shodai's cells to strengthen her. He could even give her a pair of Sharingan. But in that case, Guni and the others would definitely want it. No one can compare to those 3 girls in terms of merit. Thinking of this, Naruto thought of Big Fatty. It seems that he really needs to find more Shodai cells. Keep up the good work. When the task is completed, there will be a reward. Naruto encouraged She-Wolf, then stepped on his flying sword and disappeared from She-Wolf's sight in the blink of an eye. At the same time, he also received a wave of admiration from She-Wolf. Spiritual Network. Naruto contacted Haiden and said, "Do you know Kakuzu's memories?" Haiden replied, "I know." Naruto was happy. "Then organize the information about Waterfall Village and send it to me." 5 minutes later, Naruto received the information about Waterfall Village. The information included the map of Waterfall Village that Naruto wanted. It recorded a secret passage. He just didn't know if it could still be used now. There was also information about the people. The current leader of Waterfall Village is called Wataru. The human pillar force is called Fu. There was also something called the Hero's Water. It is said that if a person drinks chakra, their strength will increase by 10 times. The side effect is death. Naruto glanced at it. All the information was transferred to his brain. Mission target: Fu. Appearance features: dark skin, blue-green hair. In addition, Naruto was also very interested in the hero water. The flying sword accelerated, and Naruto flew straight to the place where Takigakure was located. Waterfall Village. The sound of the waterfall was mixed together. There was a semi-natural cave in the waterfall. Going along the cave, the deepest part of the tunnel was Waterfall Village. Leader, this is news from Woodleaf. The leader of Waterfall Village, Wataru, was a young man who looked to be in his early 20s, with a handsome face and a gentle temperament. He had long black hair that reached his waist, and his bangs scattered to his eyebrows. Wataru took the scroll from his subordinate. Woodleaf refused our commission. After reading the scroll, Wataru's face showed a hint of worry. It seems that the rumors are true. The ninja in front of Wataru asked, "So, is there really going to be a war again?" "But if there is a war, it has nothing to do with Waterfall Village. We just have to continue to be neutral. We are a small ninja village in the gap between two big countries. The value of existence is to be a buffer between two big countries." Wataru took a deep breath. He sighed and said, "I hope so, that Tsuchikage kidnapped the human pillar force of the Land of Lightning. It's not impossible for him to kidnap Fu in Waterfall Village. Okay, you go down. During this time, strengthen the number of guards around Fu." The ninja sighed and said, "I'm afraid with our ability, even if we strengthen the guards, it's still the same thing. And there are already a lot of guards around Fu. If we add more, our village can accept even fewer missions," Wang Yao said. Wataru smiled and said, "It doesn't matter, after this period of time, everything will be fine." The ninja left. Both of them didn't notice that behind Wamu, a human face flashed on the wall. It was Naruto who had successfully sneaked in. Listening to the conversation between the two, Naruto was a little emotional. Such a harmonious dialogue between superiors and subordinates is absolutely rare in this world where the ninja system is strict. Either this person was deeply trusted by the leader, or there weren't many people in the Takigakure village. Naruto felt that it should be the latter, plus some trust. So where should he go next? Should he go find the human pillar force? Or the hero water? Chapter 532. According to the information given by Haydn, the hero's water is the holy water obtained from the giant tree every 100 years. Naruto sneaked into the giant tree that stored the hero's water according to the information given by Haydn. As a result, the so-called hero's water is very similar to the gray or vein recorded in the Book of Gray. Light green, slightly sticky, and crystal precipitated. After the crystal precipitated out, the crystal would dissipate. According to the Book of Gray, the gray or can't be directly swallowed, otherwise people will die in madness. After drinking the hero's water, chakra will be 10 times stronger and then die. Naruto carefully observed the small pool of hero's water. The water was very calm, and the bottom was covered with a layer of small crystals. If it's the gray or vein, there should be a spring at the bottom. Just as Naruto was about to explore, footsteps suddenly came from outside the giant tree. Someone. Naruto's body merged into the tree and hid. De. The sound of footsteps was neither fast nor slow, one after another. Soon, a young man with a delicate and pretty face walked in. It was the leader of the Waterfall Village, Wataru. Wataru came in and stood in front of the pool of hero's water, looking at the water in the pool. He turned around and sat cross-legged and began to meditate. Meditation can improve the spiritual power, and when the spiritual power is high, whether it's refining chakra or controlling chakra, it will increase. Therefore, it's a compulsory course for ninjas. But there's no need to meditate here, right? Because of faith, habit, or afraid of death? Naruto felt that it should be the latter. Most of the ninjas of the Waterfall Village went to protect the Nanabai human pillar force. If the leader wants to ensure his safety, there's no better place than the forbidden area. No matter what, the forbidden area has a protective barrier. Of course, this barrier is useless to Naruto. Wataru didn't mean to leave for a while, so Naruto decided to go to other places in the Mist Village. For example, to find the Nanabai human pillar force. At night, the sky was getting dark. Seven-tailed Jinchuriki, Lotus's room was surrounded by guards every 10 steps and a sentry every 5. It was very tight, but in front of Naruto's eyes, there was only a group of big idiots. Naruto quietly approached. System notification. A barrier has been discovered ahead. System notification. Comparing the type of barrier with the database. System notification. Database comparison successful. A panel appeared in front of Naruto. Information about the barrier was recorded on the interface. Barrier type. Perception barrier. Barrier type. Triggering alarm barrier. Barrier level. Intermediate. Cracking difficulty, low. System cracking success rate. 100%. System notification. Would you like to hand it over to the system to crack? What a crude defense system. Naruto couldn't help but curse in his heart. He chose yes. System notification. Perception enchantment deciphering begins. Decoding progress. 50%. 100%. The system prompted. Perception barrier has been successfully broken. Shielding function activated. The shielding function was to integrate the perception barrier created by the system that enveloped Naruto's body into the other side's barrier. This way, Naruto could freely enter and exit the other side's barrier without triggering the alarm. Seven Tails' human pillar forces room. Lotus was lying on the bed in boredom, wearing a white nightgown. As for her appearance, it was the same as the information given by Haiden. Blue-green hair, tan skin. This reminded Naruto of the woman from the Lightning Country. Lotus wouldn't have that side's bloodline, right? It was very likely. But it could also be from the sun. Naruto quietly approached and used a pseudo-spiritual link. Gugwa. A frog's voice entered Lotus's mind. Frog? Lotus was surprised and pricked up her ears to listen. The 3 Tomo Sharingan turned into a Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto didn't look at Lotus and used the established spiritual link to directly cast Genjutsu on Lotus. This time, neither Lotus nor Nanabai saw Naruto. They only heard a gurgling sound before they were controlled. Nanabai's check was successful. 3 more cracks appeared on the huge egg with a cracking sound. Naruto stared at the giant egg, and so did Nine Tails. However, the giant egg showed no signs of cracking. Nine Tails narrowed his eyes and stared at the giant egg. Naruto, I have a bold idea. Naruto replied, put away your idea and continue to look for Rokubi. Nine Tails looked serious. To be honest, I think there's a problem with this egg. Naruto looked at Nine Tails. What's the problem? Nine Tails stared at the egg. I asked Hinata Girl what would happen if the egg hatches and cracks and the chick doesn't come out. Hinata Girl said the chick will die. Naruto nodded, somewhat surprised that Nine Tails asked Hinata this question. That's right, what's wrong? Nine Tails pointed at the egg and said, it's been cracked for so long, if it died, it would have died long ago. Is that so? Naruto suddenly felt that it made sense. Nine Tails urged, so, let's try kicking it. Naruto was troubled, what if your guess is wrong? Nine Tails thought for a moment, if it's wrong, you'll lose an egg. The giant egg, Naruto. What kind of F** king egg is this? Naruto hesitated for a moment and thought about it before giving up. Naruto's mind withdrew from Nine Tails' sealed space. Nine Tails continued to stare at the giant egg. Suddenly, Nine Tails felt a chill in his heart, and the giant egg seemed to have moved. Naruto, come here quickly. Naruto's consciousness entered Nine Tails' space again. What's wrong? Nine Tails pointed at the egg and said, it moved just now. Naruto turned to look at the egg. The two of them continued to stare at the egg. For a long time, the egg didn't move. Are you encouraging me to kick the egg? Naruto rolled his eyes at Nine Tails. Nine Tails had a serious expression. I can guarantee that I saw the egg move. And that egg seemed to be unhappy with me. The egg was unhappy? Naruto looked at Nine Tails like he was looking at an idiot. How did you see the egg's emotions? Then he waved his hand. Forget it, let's wait until I fuse with the Rokubi. I've already told Hirako to keep an eye on the Rokubi. I believe that it won't be long before I fuse with the Rokubi's chakra as well. Naruto withdrew from Nine Tails' sealed space. Nine Tails continued to stare at the egg. Kyuubi felt that something was amiss. But what was it? Naruto. I remember it now. Come here quickly. Naruto's consciousness entered Nine Tails' sealed space again. He looked at Nine Tails speechlessly. What did you remember this time? Nine Tails spoke. Did you forget? In the past, when you fused with the chakra, the egg would devour a lot, and it would even give you a golden soul force. This, you don't say, it's true. Ever since the egg cracked, no golden soul force came out. Naruto didn't care at first, but after hearing what Nine Tails said, he felt that something was wrong. Naruto looked at the egg again. At this time, a golden soul force suddenly floated out of the egg and fused with Naruto's body. Nine Tails. Naruto. You're burying your head in the sand. You're giving yourself away. Naruto and Nine Tails looked at each other. Then Naruto decisively kicked the egg. Crack, 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 crack. The cracks on the egg couldn't hold on any longer and began to shatter. Inside the egg, a white fox sat cross-legged with its hands on its cheeks, staring at Nine Tails with dead fish eyes. Little red hair, you're courting death, do you know that? Chapter 533. The egg had already hatched. Naruto's face was filled with black lines. Was this egg a century egg? Why did you stay in the egg after hatching? The little white fox's dead fish eyes turned to stare at Naruto. You just believe whatever the silly fox says. If it wasn't completed, then we'd both die together. Naruto. What was this called? The guilty party complaining first? It was clearly you who was pretending to be dead in the egg, okay? What do you mean by dying together? Naruto stared at the fox. Why was it a fox? Could it be that Chakra who swallowed the Nine Tails had swallowed the most? That was very likely. The little white fox replied, it means what it means. Naruto. What was the difference between this and not explaining at all? Naruto stared at the little fox. Such an uncooperative little fox. It seemed like there would be a lot of headaches in the future. The little white fox fiercely stared at Naruto before explaining, before you entered the girl's house, you used the system to break the perception barrier around the girl, right? Naruto nodded and said, yes. The little white fox continued to explain, what I did when I swallowed chakra was similar to that. I was breaking the rules of this world. Saying this, the little white fox picked up a piece of eggshell beside it and threw it to Naruto. The circle of light on this is the completion progress. Under normal circumstances, I can only come out when it completely turns golden. Naruto saw that there was still a part of the circle of light that wasn't golden. That meant it wasn't completely broken? The little white fox said, luckily the rules of this world weren't complete and were separated by the previous outsiders. Otherwise, your kick would have sent us to heaven. Naruto understood. He held the eggshell and said, so you're saying this eggshell is used for shielding? The little white fox raised its hand and the broken eggshell once again stood to the side. Yes, that's right. You used the ability to copy the rules and copied the rules of this eggshell. This can be considered a high-level shielding array. Naruto's Sharingan transformed into Mangekyo Sharingan. Sure enough, Naruto saw a very complicated rune array on the eggshell. Little Baihu reminded, don't use your head to memorize it. The curse seals on it are much more advanced than what you know, so you should directly use your ability to copy the rules. After the duplication, Naruto and the two foxes fell into an awkward situation. What are you talking about? The three of them could play fight the landlord. Alright, let me introduce myself. What's your name? Naruto looked at Little Baihu, and Little Baihu rolled her eyes at Naruto. Are you stupid? I'm a newborn, okay? Shouldn't you be the one to name me? Huh? A newborn? How could there be such an awesome newborn? Naruto expressed his doubts and asked in disbelief, really? Little Baihu affirmed, yes. Naruto asked, then, what's wrong with your personality? And you know so many things. Little Baihu replied, personality? I'm copying you. The things I know are inherited memories. Copying him? Naruto had a bad premonition in his heart. He still knew a little about himself. After this, Naruto swallowed his saliva. He pointed at himself uncertainly and said, do you want me to give you a name? Little Baihu sat up seriously and nodded her head solemnly. 2 words suddenly appeared in Naruto's heart when he saw Little Baihu. But, wouldn't this name be a little bad? But he couldn't give such a suitable name. In addition, he couldn't think of any good names. Cough cough. Naruto cleared his throat and reminded, then I'll get up. From now on, you'll be called Preserved Egg. The anticipation in Little Baihu's eyes disappeared and was replaced by resentment that wanted to stare Naruto to death. Nine Tails was stunned, and then burst into laughter. Wow. Haha. Haha. I'm dying of laughter. Naruto, you're really too talented. This name is really too suitable. I also feel that this guy is quite naughty, wahaha. Nine Tails' laughter made Little Baihu's face as black as the bottom of a pot. In the next moment, Naruto didn't see how Little Baihu disappeared. When it reappeared, Little Baihu was already in Nine Tails' cage. Nine Tails was shocked. How did you get in? Little Baihu went up and used a floating fist to smash Nine Tails' eyes. Nine Tails was sent flying. Then, he was beaten up violently. Naruto blushed with shame as he watched. He named Preserved Egg. After beating Nine Tails, would he be beaten up as well? Hearing Nine Tails' screams, Naruto felt a burst of pain. Little thing. You dare to hit me! Nine Tails came back to his senses from the shock. Little Baihu went up and punched again. Little thing. I'm going to fight back. Nine Tails bared his teeth and showed a fierce face. Little Baihu's body began to expand more than 10 times, staring down at Nine Tails. Nine Tails' ears perked up. Woo! Was this the whimper of a dog? Nine Tails seemed to be terrified. Little Baihu's fist hung down and smashed Nine Tails' head from top to bottom. Kyuubi's tears came out. It was a little tough. No wonder it was the existence that swallowed 6-tailed beasts, chakra. Naruto couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Fortunately, after this punch, Little Baihu didn't act up anymore and calmed down and came out of the cage. Then, it stared at Naruto. Naruto felt a little guilty. If you don't like this name, it's not impossible to discuss. Little Baihu snorted. Preserved Egg then, it's just a name. But I'll beat up whoever dares to laugh. He actually accepted it. Was this the legendary saying that one's body is upright? While Naruto was guessing, Preserved Egg turned around and walked towards a whirlpool with an image. I'm going out to play. Then, he disappeared into the whirlpool. That whirlpool was the connection between Naruto and Little Flying Squirrel. Naruto had a guess in his heart. Was this whirlpool originally Preserved Egg's ability? Preserved Egg disappeared. Naruto wanted to chase after him and give him a few words of advice. It was fine to go out to play, but the Akatsuki was not his home, so he couldn't mess around. But before he left, Naruto asked about Nine Tails with concern. Are you okay? Nine Tails suddenly straightened his neck and pretended to be fat. What can happen to me? I just let it go because it's small. Was that so? Was he sure he couldn't beat it? Forget it, he didn't want to provoke Nine Tails. This time, Nine Tails was the main reason the egg could hatch. Otherwise, who knew how many years it would take for the egg to hatch? Nine Tails snorted and said, You gave it a name, right? Then its surname is yours, right? Then its full name is Whirlpool Preserved Egg? Naruto, With such a cheap mouth, not to mention preserved egg, he also wanted to slap 9 tails. At the same time, in Rain Country, Preserved Egg controlled little flying squirrel's body to sit up. He said to Deidara, who was greeting him, "Do you want to know my name?" Deidara was stunned. Then, he nodded. Yes. Rat Grandpa was just too terrible. He couldn't say it. Preserved Egg nodded. Okay, listen carefully. But before I tell you, I have to remind you that you can't laugh. If you do, I'll beat you up. Deidara nodded seriously. What's there to laugh about a name? I definitely won't laugh. That's disrespectful to you. Preserved Egg smiled. Very good. My name is Preserved Egg. Deidara's expression stiffened. Haha. Haha. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, it's really. Preserved Egg's lips curled up into a smile. It's okay, it's good that you laugh. As he spoke, he threw a punch at Dedale's left eye, leaving a bruise on his eye. I can only beat you up if you laugh. As he said that, he punched his right eye again. After beating Deidara up, Preserved Egg stubbornly walked to Scorpion's room. Dang dang dang. He knocked on the door. The door opened. Preserved Egg had a cute smile on his face. Do you want to know my name? Chapter 534. After stopping Preserved Egg from messing around in the country of rain, Naruto hurriedly brought the water sample of the Water of Hero back to the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. Next was the meeting in Naruto's body. The main members of the meeting were Naruto and Preserved Egg. Listening in, 9 Tails. Preserved Egg, can you tell me what's in your inherited memory? What I want to know is the reason why I came to this world and why you're in my body. Preserved Egg was a little dissatisfied that Naruto stopped him from introducing himself to the members of the Akatsuki. I don't know. There's only one accurate instruction in the memory, which is to parasitize the world and then swallow it. As for your question, it seems that the answer can only be found after swallowing this world. Swallow this world? Naruto was stunned. She swallowed her saliva with difficulty. You mean swallowed, Preserved Egg said very casually. Literally, I'll eat it. Naruto stared at Preserved Egg and said, Are you serious? Preserved Egg nodded. But before swallowing this world, I need to analyze the rules of this world to 100%. The specific process is to completely analyze the chakra form of the 9 tails, then revive the 10 tails and analyze the chakra form of the 10 tails. Naruto's face was numb. Preserved Egg said, I'm really thankful that this world was invaded before. Otherwise, it would be difficult to complete it without a few thousand years. Naruto was speechless. Naruto felt a little confused. So, he was the villain of this world? Although he did not feel that he was a righteous person from the beginning. Let's not talk about that first. Let's talk about your abilities first. What abilities do you have? Preserved Egg blurted out, I have the ability to analyze the rules. What a simple way to put it. Just as Naruto was deep in thought, Preserved Egg's mouth began to chew. Naruto was stunned. What are you eating? Preserved Egg pointed to the side. Naruto looked over. On the sealed door of the 9 tails, a round hole appeared. He could really eat anything. At the same time, 9 tails looked up at the gap and gestured with his head as if he was trying to figure out if he could get out of it. Creak, creak. Preserved Egg made a sound as if he was rejecting the chips. He did not bite them, but Naruto noticed that every time he swallowed, a piece of 9 tails' cage would disappear. Gnawing at the cage from afar? Wait a moment. Let's make a deal first. Naruto looked at Preserved Egg sternly. Preserved Egg continued to chew. What rules do you want? Naruto raised his hand. Just 3, no more. First, whatever you want to eat in the future, you have to ask me first. You can only eat it if I agree. Preserved Egg stopped chewing and stuck out his pink tongue to lick his lips. Then can this cage be eaten? Preserved Egg pointed at 9 tails' cage. In the cage, Ninetales looked at Naruto pitifully. You said you would let me out. You can't go back on your words. Naruto nodded. Okay, eat it. Preserved egg continued to chew. Creak, creak. Creak, creak. Gulp. He swallowed it. Naruto was relieved. He was most afraid that preserved egg would not listen to him. If that happened, he would panic. Now, it seemed that things were still under his control. In other words, he still had a choice. Preserved egg asked, "What about the second rule?" The second rule. Naruto thought for a while. Let's talk about it when we find out the problem. Keep it. Preserved egg replied with an "oh," and continued to chew. It looked like a cow chewing upside down. Explanation. It was also called regurgitation. It meant that the cow would return the half-digested food from its stomach to its mouth and chew it again. Naruto did not know what he was thinking. He raised his head and looked at Ninetales as the iron gate was being chewed apart bit by bit. Preserved egg spoke first. Oh yes, there is something else that I want to eat. It is the Kamui dimension called Obito. Obito's dimension? Naruto looked at preserved egg and said, "If you eat that dimension, will you own that dimension?" Preserved egg replied, "That dimension has been separated from the original world. It is considered a fragment of the rules. If I eat it, I can start to build the prototype of the world in my body." Naruto blinked. Build the prototype of the world? Creak, creak. Gulp. Preserved egg said, "It is to prepare for the devouring world. After I devour this world, I can build a complete world in my body." So powerful? It turned out that the devouring world was to create a new world. Preserved egg saw that Naruto did not speak and asked, "Can I swallow that?" Naruto raised his hand. "Wait a moment. Let me think about it. If you swallow that space, won't Obito's Manjikyu Sharingan become useless?" Preserved egg nodded. "It is very definite. But if you don't want to destroy his ability, I can lend it to him." Abilities can be lent. Naruto took a deep breath. When you say lend, do you mean that after I devour Obito's dimension, Obito can still use his original ability? Preserved egg thought for a moment. You can say that. The dimension is definitely different. But after I modify it, even the prototype world will be stronger than his original one. Naruto asked, "In addition to this, can you also lend other abilities?" Preserved egg nodded. "Yes, but it has to be based on your strength. The current situation is that each ability can only be copied to one person." Damn it! This is the greatest ability. Then, if I lend it out, can I still use it? Preserved egg, yes, it is your ability. What you have is the original, and what you lend out is a copy. But there is one thing to note. You can borrow abilities, but you can't borrow physique. In other words, the receiver's physical condition will not change because of the borrowed ability. But if you can swallow this world, then you can change everything. Awesome. The receiver's physique was not a problem because Naruto had Hashirama's cells. Naruto suddenly thought of something. Right, if that is the case, what about Sage Mode? I have the blood of the Sakuragi sisters. Logically speaking, I should... Before Naruto could finish, Preserved Egg pointed at himself and said, "I swallowed it." Naruto, is this the truth? Before Naruto asked, Preserved Egg explained, "You can't use the power of nature now unless you start to swallow this world. Otherwise, all our previous preparations will be in vain. The world will discover our existence and use all means to erase us. At that time, you may choke to death just by drinking cold water." Naruto, is it that scary? Preserved Egg asked for the third time, "You still haven't told me, can I swallow Obito's space?" Naruto nodded and said, "Yes." At this moment, clang! The 8-trigram seal on the big iron door was bitten through. The next moment, 2 chakra rushed out of the seal. The fourth Naruto, Namake's Minato, and his wife, Uzumaki Kushina. They were Naruto's parents. Are we finally going to meet? Naruto was melancholy. However, the two suddenly disappeared. Naruto. Naruto looked at Preserved Egg. Preserved Egg was chewing. You ate it? Preserved Egg said matter-of-factly, you said that the seal can be eaten. The two chakra are also part of the seal. Naruto. This is definitely the most F***king mother-son meeting in the world. You only ate chakra, right? Seeing Preserved Egg nod, Naruto finally breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 535. On the 12th floor of the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. On a huge platform supported by 12 stone pillars distributed in the direction of the clock. Naruto stood on the platform, and the stone pillars around him were very high. Naruto's 2-meter-high height looked thin and small in front of the stone pillars. In front of Naruto's eyes was a circular skylight leading to the outside world. Such a skylight was not counted, and the largest one was 11. Therefore, this layer of sunlight was particularly abundant. In addition to the stone pillars around Naruto, there were several giant beasts. Big Fool's family and 3 dragon eagles. The 3rd dragon eagle survived and was named Long San according to the order. Naruto looked at the outside world. In front of Naruto's eyes, more than 10 miles away was the capital of the Snow Country. The capital of the Snow Country was renovated at the suggestion of Naruto. It was very high, so even from such a distance, it could be seen. The country was surrounded by a bustling city, which was his painstaking effort. But if the world was destroyed, what was the point of everything he did? On the stairs leading to the 12th floor of the Great Snow Mountain, Hinata and the 2 Yujito Neon secretly glanced at Naruto. The 2 Yujito Neon whispered in Hinata's ear, I saw him come up last night. If he has not moved, then he has been standing all night. Hinata's face was a little worried. Yesterday, she received special training from Tobirama and fell asleep after taking a bath. The 2 Yujito Neon whispered, he doesn't look like he is practicing. Do you want to go and care about him? After that, the 2 Yujito Neon added one after another, are you his girlfriend? Hinata nodded and walked over to the stone platform. The 2 Yujito Neon saw Hinata walk over and breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, she wanted to ask Naruto last night, but at that time, Naruto looked at her, and she didn't know why she couldn't move her body. It was not a ninjutsu, but an indescribable feeling. It was like being afraid of the dark when she was a child. It was a kind of fear that suddenly appeared. This was the first time she had seen Naruto like that, so she didn't dare to approach Naruto. Everyone here is a monster. The 2 Yumu people murmured in a low voice. Yesterday, she also participated in the special training arranged by Tobirama, but it was embarrassing that she only completed the 3rd stage of the training. Hinata, on the other hand, completed the entire set of 5 stages. It wasn't that Hinata was strong, but her stubbornness could be said to be playing with her life. Of course, it was not enough to just risk their lives. Hinata's physical fitness was also high enough. The 2 of them had estimated that if they had taken out their life-risking energy yesterday, they should have been able to complete the 4th stage of the training. It was also at that time that she began to understand the way people looked at her after she became a human pillar force. Rather than fear, it should be jealousy. Ordinary people were jealous of monsters. Hinata walked towards Naruto, and the little fatty with silver-white hair ran towards Hinata. Compared with the dragon eagle who was serious like a soldier, the Big Fool's family was more active. Hinata touched the tiger's head in front of her, and then continued to walk towards Naruto with the little guy. Naruto-kun. Hinata called softly, and Naruto came back to his senses. Well, what's the matter? Naruto's thoughts were still a little slow, and his reaction was a little slow. Hinata walked to Naruto's side and took the initiative to hold Naruto's hand for the first time. Naruto's hand was bigger than Hinata's, and his palm was thick and warm. Hinata liked the feeling of being held by Naruto's hand. Naruto's hand could protect her entire palm, giving her a great sense of security. Hinata held Naruto's hand with both hands, and only in this way could her small hand protect Naruto's hand. Hinata did not speak, and Naruto did not ask. He opened his arms and hugged Hinata. Hinata hugged Naruto's hand and protected her heart. Naruto hugged Hinata with both hands. The two felt each other's presence. For a moment, Naruto felt a lot more relaxed. But a silly tiger came to ruin the atmosphere. It was the little guy with silver white hair. When it saw Hinata and Naruto hugging together, it opened its arms and hugged the two of them in its arms. The most retarded thing was that its mother also opened her arms. What was this? 3 years of pregnancy stupidity? Naruto only noticed last night that the tiger mother was pregnant again. He thought that she ate too much. Get up, what are you guys doing? Go play somewhere else. Naruto avoided the tiger mother with a look of disgust, and then pushed away the silly tiger cub. The atmosphere was good, and he wanted to kiss Hinata just now. Thinking about it, it should be very romantic. Naruto-kun, go and eat. Inugami has already prepared the meal. After Naruto didn't let Hinata cook that day, he planned to cook himself. But then Naruto found that he was the busiest one. Because of this, he summoned his female subordinate, Kuniji, who had been summoned by Hiru. Quan Ji's cooking skills were not bad. Naruto hugged Hinata and jumped on the tiger cub. Although it was a cub, it was still smaller than its two parents. In terms of body size, it was more than 2 meters. Let's go to the dining room, Naruto ordered, and the tiger cub jumped up with the two of them and flew down the platform. It circled around the circular gap inside the mountain. On the first floor of the dining room, Naruto carried Hinata to the dining table. Hinata was shy now. Naruto-kun, put me down. It's not good to let people see. Naruto teased, I'm your man, what's wrong with holding you? Besides, there are no outsiders. After sitting down in the dining room, Naruto was still holding Hinata. Hinata didn't want to. Put me down, if Sister Yujito sees me, she will laugh at me. Naruto was still thick-skinned. It's okay, she won't dare laugh at you. In fact, she can't even beat you. If she laughs at you, you can beat her. What kind of nonsense is this? How could a girl beat someone up just because she was shy when she wanted to play around? Hinata pouted, if you don't put me down, I won't eat. Naruto was still thick-skinned. I'll feed you. Hinata was angry and stared at Naruto. Naruto finally surrendered. Okay, I'll let you eat. Really, you can enjoy the treatment of a princess, but you have to be like the people of the same class. He put Hinata on the chair next to him. Naruto lowered his head and whispered, Hinata, do you think that husband and wife should sleep in the same bed? Hinata was stunned, and then her face turned red. Naruto breathed hot air in Hinata's ear. I'll hug you to sleep tonight. Hinata was so nervous that her two small fists on her legs wrinkled her clothes. Ah. I'm going to die. Why are you talking dirty in broad daylight? Naruto said cheekily, then don't say it during the day, say it at night. Hinata summoned up her courage, pointed to the table and ordered, eat. The two were about to eat. They found that the two Yugi-nin hadn't arrived yet. Naruto asked Hinata, it's time to eat, where is she? She's usually more active than anyone, what's wrong today? Only then did Hinata remember that she left the two Yugi-nin upstairs. The Great Snow Mountain Research Institute was built by hollowing out the mountain. This restaurant from the 12th floor to the 4th floor. The altitude difference was more than 2,000 meters. Hinata pointed up. That. She's up there. Naruto wondered. What is she doing up there? Forget it, let's eat first. Is this okay? Or did the two Yugi-nin tell him that Naruto was up there? Well, Naruto's food was already in her mouth. It would be bad if she didn't open her mouth. Hinata opened her mouth and ate the food happily. As for the two Yugi-nin, they could apologize when they went shopping tomorrow. Chapter 536. Night. In Hinata's room, Naruto was writing and drawing on a piece of paper that covered the entire table. Hinata watched from the side and nodded obediently whenever Naruto explained. Naruto was talking about the seals used in the metal suit. This was a kind of tutoring for Hinata. Hinata listened attentively at first, but when the hour hand on the dial reached 11, and the minute hand reached 12, Hinata's breathing became rapid. It was already very late, but Naruto didn't seem to have any intention of leaving. Could it be that what Naruto said at noon wasn't just dirty talk? Was Naruto-kun really going to stay the night at her place? Were they really going to sleep on the same bed? Then, would Naruto-kun sleep inside or outside? Hinata thought of her own bed. Hinata knew that she didn't sleep well, and the whole big bed could easily fall to the ground. If she slept outside, Hinata's face became even redder. Ugh! What was she thinking? Shameless! Hinata bit her lip and secretly glanced at the clock. Even later. This is the main route of energy transmission, this fulcrum. Naruto looked up and found that Hinata had slipped away. Following Hinata's line of sight, it was already 11:30. It's already so late. Naruto came back to his senses. He pinched Hinata's little nose. Are you sleepy? Why didn't you wake me? Naruto's hand touched the tip of Hinata's nose. In the past, Hinata didn't feel anything. Today, she suddenly had goosebumps on the back of her neck. She stopped breathing and her heart beat faster. Naruto-kun. Hinata's hand gripped the corner of her clothes nervously. She wanted to speak, but her voice was getting softer and softer. Even she couldn't hear herself. Naruto looked at the little girl's nervous expression. How could he not know what Hinata was nervous about? He put on an act and said, "Since it's getting late, let's wash up and go to bed." Then, he said to Hinata, "What are you standing there for? It's time to wash up. Do you want to go first, or should I?" Hinata's brain short-circuited. Huh? Naruto-kun, you want to wash up here? Naruto said matter-of-factly, "That's right. Didn't I tell you? Today, I will hug you to sleep." Hinata didn't know how to respond. She lowered her head and whispered, I don't think so. If Sister Yujito sees." Hinata panicked. Naruto said nonchalantly, "Who cares what she does? I'm your man. It's natural for us to sleep together." With that, Naruto went behind Hinata and put his hand on Hinata's shoulder. For a moment, Hinata felt that there were a lot of little ants running on her shoulder. He urged in her ear, "Don't stand there like a fool. Go wash up, or it'll be past midnight." Naruto pushed Hinata to the bathroom. "How about we wash together?" Hinata finally came to her senses and quickly pushed Naruto out. "No, I'll wash up myself." Then, he locked the door tightly from the inside. Outside the bathroom, Naruto smiled happily. But wasn't it a little too early? How about just a hug? A thought came to Naruto's mind. Another thought came to his mind and refuted, "What do you mean by early?" When the Celestial Empire was still around, people already had children at the age of 13. Besides, Hinata grows much faster than her peers. Naruto struggled with his thoughts. Finally, the sound of running water came from the bathroom. Walala, walala. Naruto's heart seemed to have grown grass. He couldn't calm down at all. He waited and waited. Nearly an hour later, Hinata still hadn't come out. Naruto couldn't help but knock on the door. "Are you not done yet?" The sound of running water finally stopped. "Naruto-kun, you go out for a while. I want to change my clothes." Naruto wanted to tease Hinata, but after thinking about it, he gave up. Hinata was thin-skinned. If he went too far, the little girl might get angry and spend the night in the bathroom. "Then I'll go out." Naruto left the room. Because the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute had one room per person. So there was only one bedroom in each room. It was their own business if they wanted to expand the bedroom. Hinata's room obviously didn't expand, so it looked square, similar to the layout of a hotel. After Naruto left the room, Hinata finally breathed a sigh of relief. She hurriedly tiptoed out of the bathroom and began to change her pajamas. Then she quickly got into bed. Naruto stood at the door, thinking about tonight's major life event. At this moment, Preserved Egg suddenly contacted Naruto and said, "Obito's space has been swallowed by me. The prototype of the world has been built. Do you want to enter now?" Naruto was stunned. He told Preserved Egg to inform him after the prototype of the world was built. Enter. Then Naruto's body disappeared. Obito's space had changed greatly. The square cubes under his feet were all gone. Instead, there was a real land, as far as the eye could see. But there was no vegetation. How big is this space? There was a line between heaven and earth in the distance. Could it be that this place was the same as the real world? Preserved Egg stood beside Naruto. It's not as big as you think. This is just a prototype that is still growing. It's about 10 square kilometers. 10 square kilometers was not small. Naruto suddenly had a bold idea. How big will this world be after it's completed? Preserved Egg replied, "Completed? You mean the real world will be swallowed? Naturally, it will be as big as the world that is swallowed. If that was the case, wouldn't he be able to transfer people to this world?" Naruto squatted down and touched the ground under his feet. The ground was very dry, and it was full of rocks and sand. Are all the lands like this? Preserved Egg. Yes. Naruto confirmed again, if I really swallow the world, this place will become a real world, right? Preserved Egg. Yes. Naruto smiled. Good. Good. Great. After leaving Preserved Egg's inner world, Naruto's heart couldn't calm down for a long time. Subconsciously, he returned to his room. Naruto was not a kind person. He would not take everyone away. He would only take those he knew. For example, Snow Country. If he could really unify this world, it was not impossible to take everyone away. As he was thinking about Naruto, he finally thought of something. Did I forget something important? Naruto raised his head and looked at his room. Hinata. Hinata did not strongly reject him. Today was a great opportunity. Moreover, there were very few researchers in the Great Snow Mountain now. This was a chance that couldn't be missed. Naruto was about to go out, but then he retreated. Why not take a shower in his room and change his clothes before going? Naruto took off his clothes as fast as he could and changed into his pajamas. As for the shower, Naruto directly replaced it with chakra. After everything was ready, Naruto rushed to Hinata's door. Open the door. It didn't open. The door was locked. Naruto contacted Hinata via the spiritual network. Hinata, why did you lock the door? Open the door quickly. Hinata did not answer. Are you asleep? Then I'll go in myself. Hinata did not answer. He operated with 5-star card authority. Clack. The door opened. Hinata. I'm coming in. Naruto, who was wearing pajamas, tiptoed and walked into the room with a sneaky look. There was a big bulge on the bed. Hinata had hidden herself in the quilt. Naruto took a deep breath and locked the door. No one would ruin his good thing today. Naruto walked closer and poked. Hinata is asleep? Hinata did not respond. Naruto carefully uncovered a corner of the quilt. Stuffed inside was the big doll that Naruto had given to Hinata. Naruto's mood instantly cursed. Could it be that I was too anxious and scared the little girl? Naruto crawled into Hinata's bed and kicked the big doll aside. Since he was already here, he might as well sleep here tonight. As for Hinata, she should have gone to sleep in another room. Before the lights were turned off, Naruto came to Hinata's dressing mirror and looked at himself in it. Keep up the good work tomorrow. Chapter 537. Mission Target, Yugao Gender, Male Height, 1, 78 meters. Characteristics: likes to blow bubbles, uses bubble-type ninjutsu. Land of Hot Springs. A leisurely woman glanced at the man blowing bubbles on a branch of a tree. His characteristics were confirmed, but his name and whether he knows ninjutsu or not wasn't confirmed. But that wasn't important. Her mission was complete. The follow-up investigation would be carried out by someone else. The woman casually walked past the tree. After returning to her room, she recorded the information and summoned a small bird that looked like a sparrow. The woman handed the scroll to the bird, who swallowed the scroll that was several times larger than its body. Then, with a poof, it turned into smoke and disappeared. The same day, noon, Naruto, who was researching in the Great Snow Mountain, received a message from Hirako. "Boss, I found the Rokubi human pillar force." Saying so, Naruto received a message about the Rokubi human pillar force. Land of Hot Springs, Wildwood Hot Springs Hotel, Room 202. Stay time, 4 hours. Estimated time of departure, tomorrow. Well done. Opening the map, the Land of Hot Springs is located at the border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Lightning. The closest place on the map is in the Land of Water, which is Hirako's group. Naruto contacted the 3 girls in the Land of Hot Springs and asked, "Which of you is the fastest, and how long will it take to reach the Land of Hot Springs?" Gurney replied, "I'm the fastest. I use boil release. If I fly at full speed with the wings of the metal suit, I'll arrive in 2 hours. The main body of the metal suit is standardized, and the weapon it carries depends on the individual's preference. As for the wings, there's only one. It's only suitable for Gurney's boil release, because the principle of flight is based on Naruto's jet plane. Then head to the Land of Hot Springs immediately and notify me when you arrive." After hanging up, Naruto continued to transplant Shodai's cells into the Dragonhawk. This is the 4th one. He erased Shodai's consciousness from the cells. Naruto used his Manjikyu Sharingan to give the 4th one a telepathic hint and left. After analyzing the Rokubi's chakra, only the Sanbai and the other half of the 9 tails were left. Only the 10 tails was left. In order to revive the 10 tails, the human pillar force had to remove the tailed beast from his body. But the problem was that if the tailed beast withdrew, the human pillar force would die. Naruto could replace the other half of 9 tails. But the 2 Yuginin didn't. And that guy, my love, was also his godbrother. Add another killer bee? Naruto's consciousness sneaked into the sealed space of 9 tails. Preserved egg had already gnawed many holes in the 9-tailed beast's cage. There was also a hole in the lock on the main seal. A few more mouthfuls and the seal would be broken. "Naruto, can you let preserved egg take a few more bites?" 9 Tails looked at Naruto with pleading eyes. Last time, when 9 Tails thought that he was going to come out, preserved egg suddenly said that he was full. Naruto could see that preserved egg was deliberately disgusting 9 Tails. Naruto nodded. He came today to see if 9 Tails could still stay in his body or leave after the seal was broken. Spiritual network. Naruto contacted Little Flying Squirrel and said, "Preserved egg, come back and eat 9 Tails' cage." Soon, preserved egg came out of the vortex. The snow-white little fox looked at 9 Tails unhappily. Crunch, crunch. With one bite, a piece of the cage that sealed 9 Tails was bitten off. The location was a new place. It was far different from the previous place. 9 Tails pointed at the lock anxiously. "Just eat it, don't worry about the rest." However, the little guy ignored 9 Tails. 9 Tails looked at Naruto for help. Well, the little guy was still angry at 9 Tails. "Eat the lock." Hearing Naruto's words, preserved egg's mouth paused. Gulp. He swallowed it. Then, he took another bite. This time, the gap was locked. 9 Tails stared at the door lock. It was just that each bite was a small bite. 9-Tailed was so anxious that she was scratching her heart and liver. This time, Naruto did not urge preserved egg. No matter how small the bite was, it would eventually be finished. Moreover, Naruto also felt that 9-Tails' anxious look was quite funny. He even recorded what he saw in front of him into a video. Ding! The door lock was eaten, and the round lock in the middle of the door was opened. Nine Tails rushed out. However, a new lock suddenly appeared and locked the door again. Bang! Nine Tails crashed into the door. The electric current formed by the seal hit Nine Tails and sent Nine Tails flying back. The seal seemed to be stronger than before. Where did the lock come from? Nine Tails' eyes widened, and then he looked at Preserved Egg's smug smile. Nine Tails could not help but curse like Naruto. F***ck. Naruto could not help but burst out laughing. This video was very memorable. When Naruto was done laughing. Alright, don't bully little Nine anymore. Let it out. Because the lock was formed by Preserved Egg's ability, there was no need to eat it this time. With a thought from Preserved Egg, the seal was opened. The iron door opened wide, and Nine Tails walked out step by step. At the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, red chakra suddenly gushed out of Naruto's body like boiling magma. 1 tail, 2 tails, 3 tails. The red chakra on Naruto's body continued to expand. His body rapidly grew from 2 meters tall, 5 to 6 meters to more than 10 meters. Boom! Nine Tails chakra erupted. The 6th tail. A huge fox appeared inside the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. The aura formed by the violent ability woke up the 2 teak people who were taking an afternoon nap in the room. What happened? Second last, who was in the 2 teak people's body, muttered, "The old man is biased." The 2 teak people rushed out of the house and soon saw Nine Tails. Nine Tails' body was still expanding. From more than 10 meters to dozens of meters. The 7th tail. The 2 teak people were shocked. Is this the power of Nine Tails? Hinata also rushed over. Naruto-kun. In the spiritual network, Naruto comforted the 2 of them. I'm fine. The steel under Naruto's feet had begun to deform. Naruto jumped down and directly jumped to the 1st floor. It was spacious now. The 8th tail. Naruto's body continued to expand. The 9th tail. Naruto had completely turned into 9 tails. At this moment, a foreign force suddenly joined Naruto's body. More and more followed. Naruto was stunned. Preserved Egg swallowed the force into his stomach. 9 tails in attribute chakra's half. More and more power gathered. 9 tails, which had stopped growing, continued to grow. There was also an ominous aura. A strong negative emotion erupted from Nine Tails' body. The fiery red Nine Tails turned dark red. The 2 teak people widened their eyes and said in horror, "What's going on?" Nine Tails didn't accept Naruto. The 2 teak people were very familiar with this manic aura. That was what Second Last was like when she first met her. She had a destructive will that wanted to devour people. In Naruto's spiritual world, Nine Tails closed his eyes and recalled some of the lost memories in his mind. The memories that originally belonged to Nine Tails with Een attributes. Nine Tails' face was ferocious. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.